What's up? This is EJ Stewart.
What if I drop 40 days, 40 nights?
One, you can't do it.
All you are your words. If there's anything you learned about me, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you.
Every morning, every night, for 40 days.
Going to be a long 40 days this year.
My skill shot will hold for your city for 40 days, 40 nights.
Rest in peace to all my ops.
For 40 days. If I can do that, then everything will be okay.
You're the guy who can't finish a sandwich. You think you can go 40 days? This isn't normal!
Oh, you're wrong, brother. I'm gonna go the distance.
Let's go! Let's go is right. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. You are watching 40 Days, 40 Nights. We have made it, folks. Took us a little while, but we're at the halfway mark. Officially, after today's show, we will be at the halfway mark of 40 Days and 40 Nights with your boy EJ Stewart, where I, EJ Stewart, do 2 live stream shows per day, talking sports, talking pop culture, and pop culture can mean anything. We can be talking hip-hop, and earlier we had a whole breakdown of what we believe to be a really interesting, unique, and overall good album by J. Cole, The Fall Off, which people are still reacting to, and I'm excited about it, and that was fun to do earlier in the show. We could also be talking superheroes, we could also be talking wrestling, we could also be talking reality TV. We can run the gamut on all different kinds of things on the show. Again, I would say it's a sports-centered show, but we do 2 per day. We do 1 at 8 a.m., we do 1 at 6 p.m., hence why it's 40 Days and 40 Nights, 1 during the day, 1 during the evening. And we stream in multiple spots. Streaming live right now on YouTube. Shout out to the folks on YouTube. Streaming live on X. Shout out to the folks on X. And streaming live on Instagram, Action EJ. Again, we're going to have fun today. It's going to be a good one. Of course, Kendall Fridays. So my brother Kendall Stewart will be joining me, but he won't be alone today. He won't be alone because he's got a guest joining him from the crib. Shamari Stewart. As I said earlier, I said I got to get Shamari on the show. I was like, I might see if I can get him today. Sure enough, he was at the crib. He wasn't at his own crib. He wasn't somewhere else. Him and Kendall were actually together. They're hanging out. Thanks for the invite, guys. They're getting ready for the Super Bowl this weekend. And they're hanging out. So Shamari's like, I'm here. I can pull up on the show. So he's gonna pull up at 6:30, and those guys will chat about the Super Bowl. We'll chat about a whole bunch of things. So I'm excited about that. That's gonna happen at 6:30. Before that, though, we got a lot of other stuff to talk about. We're gonna start the show talking about Deion Sanders because he made some comments about what he sees as his NFL future, which is none. He's the head coach of Colorado right now. There were rumors that he may have been in the running to become the Dallas Cowboy coach last year when their opening came up, when they fired Mike McCarthy. And when he was asked today on First Take, Deion Sanders said, no, that's not going to happen. And it's not so much that he said he wouldn't coach in the NFL. It's why he said he wouldn't coach in the NFL that is fascinating to me. So I want to talk about that on this show. We're going to talk a little bit of wrestling on this show because there were a couple of things I saw on the internet that were a little surprising to me and interesting to me. One being the comments that were made earlier this week by AEW star Ricochet. Shout out to AEW, by the way. I know we've talked a lot of WWE on the show. Also a big fan of AEW, and shout out to Tony Khan. Shout out to everyone over there. They got some really good people over there. Really fascinating stuff from Ricochet, who was very candid about how his time in WWE made him feel and what he feels like his damage that was done to his legacy because of his time spent there. Of course, he was a intercontinental champion. He was a United States champion, but Ricochet was at a time considered possibly one of the bright young stars coming up into the industry, someone who could end up being maybe a WrestleMania main event type guy, and he didn't come close to that. And he seems still very jaded by his experience in WWE. I was a little surprised by some of the comments we got from Ricochet this week, so I want to play them, or not play them because they're not playing, but read them to you guys and let me know what you guys think about them, because he says that, again, not only his resume, but a lot of the resume of other wrestlers that are currently on the roster have been slandered and been again tarnished by WWE in their experience there. So interesting stuff. WWE apparently very angered by the comments that Ricochet made, so I want to dive into those. Also, there were some details about some scrapped WrestleMania plans, because we now know the plan currently. It was announced on, I forgot the name of that podcast, so apologies because I do love these two brothers, but O'Shea Jackson's podcast, the wrestling podcast he does with I forgot the name, but the producer for Rich Eisen's show. They announced that CM Punk versus Roman Reigns is going to be night 2 of WrestleMania. So that's kind of what I predicted as far as the main event, that when they put that as the first match that they promoted, that was going to be your night 2 main event. And then they were able to break the news that it indeed will be night 2 of WrestleMania. You'll have Roman Reigns up against CM Punk. But that was not always the plan. That was not supposed to happen. There were so many other things that were supposed to happen in terms of how they were going to approach this. In fact, it was so different from what they expected that it actually impacted what they did with the Royal Rumble. And we had Roman Reigns winning, but he also apparently was not supposed to win the Royal Rumble. It was supposed to be somebody entirely different. So I find that extremely interesting. We're definitely going to talk about whether or not they made the right call and would the original plan have worked had they went forward with that plan. So we'll break that down as well. Again, my brothers Kendall and Shamari coming up at 6:30, so that'll be a lot of fun for Kendall Fridays. But they're not just Kendall Fridays today. We got to call them Kendall and Shamari Friday, because today it'll be both of those guys joining me on the show. That's going to be a lot of fun. Again, 40 days, 40 nights. Shout out to the folks on YouTube, where we're streaming live currently on YouTube. New Generation Media is where you'll find us on YouTube. Also, shout out to the folks on X. EJ_Stewart is where you'll find us on X. And of course, shout out to the folks on Instagram. Action EJ is where you'll find me on Instagram. And like I say with every show, anytime we're on, we post every episode on our podcast channel once it's done. So day 20 is up already. Night 20 from yesterday is up as well. So if you go to our podcast channel, New Generation Podcast Network, you can find not just this episode, but all episodes of 40 Days and 40 Nights up on the podcast channel. Again, just search New Generation Podcast Network. Let's get this Deion Sanders time, man, because I found this interesting. And we spoke a little bit about Shedeur Sanders last week because of the, I thought, totally off-base comments by Emmanuel Acho and his advice to Shedeur Sanders about how he shouldn't listen to Todd Monken because Todd Monken hasn't proven anything as an NFL head coach. And a lot of the sentiment I had during that conversation was that what bothers me and what concerns me is, again, who are the people that are actually giving Shedeur Sanders advice? People who say that they're looking out for his best interests, but are giving him game that actually is kind of misguided and actually end up becoming a detriment to his career, because these people who are your fans or who are these commentators, like what happens to Shedeur Sanders has no impact on their lives, their careers. But Shedeur Sanders is kind of the saying, you only live once, right? So like every decision he makes is crucial at this point in his career. And there are a lot of folks who I think they're supporting him, but are actually putting stuff out there that are to his detriment that he then listens to. So I think the stuff that happens in the media, you can say, oh, just ignore it or whatever, but that's not, you can't with this kid. He's someone who listens to a lot of this. We've seen indications that he does. And one of the things I saw that was interesting today was because Deion Sanders, his dad, who's the head coach of Colorado, he was on First Take. And he was asked a pretty simple question about, hey, like, I know you're the head coach of Colorado, but there were conversations about whether or not you would be interested in one day coaching in the NFL. So they wanted to know, is that something that is still potentially on the table? Deion Sanders said, hell no.
Ain't no way in the world. No, I don't ever. Thank you, Lord. When I stop like that.
That's to keep you from saying you don't need to say.
When I stop like that, that don't mean
God
that don't mean I'm lost for words. That means God said,
That's too wrong.
That means God said, you're a head coach now. You can't do that now. You can't talk like that. You can't say that. I know you're comfortable with your brothers here, but you can't say that.
Wow, that's something. So Deion there asked about whether or not he's going to coach in the NFL ever again. He said no. Not with what happened to Shedeur, which that opens up the, okay, what are we talking about in terms of what happened to Shedeur? So let's go through it. Let's talk about it. Yeah, Shedeur Sanders, who, like I've said a ton, if you read any mock draft, if you heard any draft pundit talk about him, even the ones that weren't as high on him, he seemed, by almost all accounts, at the very least, a late first-round pick. And if he wasn't a late first-round pick, by the people who really didn't think he was that good, but that's a small percentage now we're talking about, you may have seen some second-round pick stuff towards the end of the draft process, which maybe does indicate they were starting to hear some really negative things about Shedeur Sanders as we got closer and closer to the draft. But Shedeur Sanders sliding to the fifth round of the NFL draft was one of the most shocking slides, I think, in the history of drafts in any sport. I'd argue it was maybe the most historic and most shocking draft story in the history of sports, given the constant dialogue about it. We had the president weighing in on it. We had everyone weighing in on it. I mean, I did a show in New York City on WFAN New York. Shout out to WFAN. By the way, I'll be on WFAN 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. this Sunday. So Super Bowl Sunday, get your day started right with your boy EJ Stewart on the overnight, 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. And that's what people wanted to talk about for the 4 hours I was on. And I'm thinking, oh, it's the Giants just drafted Jackson Dart, and the Jets. Obviously, both teams have a lot of interest in the city, and I'm expecting it's going to be a conversation about what happened with those guys. And sure enough, it was nothing about that. It was basically a Shedeur Sanders show. So he is someone that drives the needle and someone that drives attention, no question about it. And that draft situation was stunning. And we've gone from that situation to his coaching staff and him going to the Browns and him being fifth string or fourth string to start rather. 5th round pick, obviously. Then it goes to in training camp. He actually gets to start. He plays pretty well in his first game, but he doesn't move up in the depth chart. Okay, then that became a conversation. And then we watched Joe Flacco struggle. We watched Dylan Gabriel struggle. And it was like, how quickly will we see Shedeur Sanders? All that to say that every turn of Shedeur Sanders' first year of his NFL career, there was some level of not just football conversation, but overall cultural conversation about was he being treated fairly based on his ability compared to the opportunities that were being given to him or how he was being talked about. You had Rex Ryan going on that what I thought was ridiculous rant about Shedeur Sanders, like get in the film room and stop talking so much. When Shedeur hadn't really said all that much during that time, Shedeur I don't think handled that well because then he went the next day and decided to pantomime as opposed to just going up there congratulating Dylan Gabriel on the day he was announced as a starting quarterback. So I wonder with Deion Sanders, when you say with what happened to Shedeur, I'm good, I don't want to coach in the NFL anymore. Are you saying Shedeur Sanders was mistreated? And if you're saying Shedeur Sanders was mistreated, where did that happen? Did it happen during the draft process? We feel like there was stories put out there about his Giants interview where he apparently was not prepared, according to Todd McShay and other people, and that he may have not done well when the Giants were actually very interested in drafting him. Was it all these other stories about how he came into the combine and that he was entitled and that he acted as if someone was basically kind of he was interviewing them, not them interviewing him? Like he kind of took it as like kind of God's gift here, coming to your organization, so I choose to go to your organization. Was that what happened? My curious thing is where is Deion Sanders saying the aspect of Shedeur Sanders? He pauses. So tell me that story's going to come at some point. He pauses now because he said, I'm a head coach. He's not going to be a head coach forever. So there'll be at some point in time where we will hear the Sanders family side to their story of what has happened with Shedeur Sanders since he left Colorado to where he is today, which is, I think, where no one would have expected. I don't think anybody would have expected he would have been a 5th round pick who would have just barely got into getting into live action towards the end of the year. I think that was surprising to a lot of folks. Where is this story off for Deion Sanders to the point where he doesn't want to be a head coach in the NFL purely because of what happened to Shedeur? I find it interesting because I think any team that's going to want Deion Sanders, I think the only teams that would be interested at this point would probably be teams that Shedeur Sanders is on. I would think it'd be a team that's trying to maximize Shedeur Sanders, say, okay, well, Shedeur Sanders, the best we've seen Shedeur Sanders play has been with his dad, which has essentially been his entire career except for this past season. So I thought maybe for him, if you're thinking about how your son was treated poorly, I thought maybe you'd be more inclined to want to go to the NFL if it was to coach your son. He's saying he doesn't want to deal with the NFL at all. Is this him kind of boycotting the NFL in a way? Is it him kind of saying like the NFL has screwed my family over and disrespected us, so therefore we're not going to participate? I'm fascinated where this is coming from. And I think where it's coming from is important. Because if it does come to a situation where, what happened with, again, remember his phone got leaked by the son of Jeff Ulbrich, and then Jeff Ulbrich, who's the defensive coordinator for the Falcons, is prank calling him during the draft, which was being live streamed on his own live stream. There were a lot of embarrassing moments for Shedeur Sanders during that weekend. I would have loved to have known what the specifics were. Because if the specifics were simply, I feel like Shedeur was mistreated because I think Kevin Stefanski didn't give him a good enough shake and he should have been playing, that becomes a little bit of, all right, is this once again kind of the Shedeur Sanders stands on the internet? Is that kind of piercing through to the actual Sanders family and this idea that Shedeur Sanders is way better than he actually has shown. Because we actually got to watch Shedeur Sanders play, and there was some. I criticized Kevin Stefanski for some of the things. That game when they went for that 2-point conversion and they didn't give Sanders the ball, even though he actually had gotten to that position, was weird and bizarre and strange. But it could just be that the Browns were a poorly coached team. Like, there's things about the Browns that it's not surprising that they lost a lot of games, even with Shedeur Sanders out there. So is it he should have came in and he should have been starting immediately? Should he have not been a fourth string, even though he's a fifth-round quarterback? Like, what were the things that we're talking about in terms of how he was treated? Was it the NFL draft? Was it the fact that this word got out that Shedeur Sanders was this entitled guy and that he wasn't prepared and that he wasn't someone that seemed to embrace the team concept and the idea that he needed to be humbled? That aspect, I think, is probably a little different. If you felt a way about that, considering I know how Deion Sanders, people see the flash and dash in terms of prime time and Coach Prime, but he's kind of an old school guy at his core. He's not someone who, he's a very religious man. He kind of speaks on old school values. We heard how he's approaching the Colorado thing where he's going to fine players for like showing up to a meeting late and stuff. Like, he's not a laxed guy. So I think for that, and a lot of those comments about Shedeur in terms of his character, that probably hurt Deion Sanders as someone who I think very much embraces the idea that he is, raised young men of high character. And Shedeur Sanders' character was questionably was questioned during that draft process. What is it? What is it? Because I think that's going to be important to determine whether or not Deion has a point or Deion is justified to feel the way he feels. If it's, kind of this vague thing we heard from these anonymous Falcons fans who are apparently really down. I got to get Carl Dukes on maybe because I'd love to talk to him about, is this Stefanski stuff true? That there are Falcons fans who love Deion so much that they are just done with the Kevin Stefanski hire because they think that Stefanski just did not handle Shedeur Sanders in that situation well. That was what Jamel Hill said. That became a firestorm on social media because it was an anonymous thing on some anecdotal evidence. It was hard to say kind of what the situation was with that, right? So I'm very fascinated as to what is the reasoning behind Deion saying he will never coach in the NFL again. Because I think that determines whether or not I can understand him feeling that way. If it's the NFL really drove my son through the mud in terms of his character and the person he is, and I don't like that. That's what they're talking about, and that's what he's talking about. I can definitely buy that. Whether it's true or untrue, I can definitely buy that. Because I think you look at that and say, again, I raised my son to be a certain way, and now there are folks who are using anonymous reporting and anonymous sources to slander what I have built for my kid. That's something I can understand. If it's my kid didn't play enough, or my kid should have been more prioritized as a franchise quarterback, that gets into more AAU dad or 7-on-7 dad stuff that I think gets a little more on the NFL level. Again, given we've seen Shedeur Sanders now play in the NFL, feels a little bit, all right, is this one of the problems with the Shedeur Sanders family and the Shedeur Sanders fan base and movement? This idea that he is someone that is entitled to something he has not earned yet. And they're two very important distinctions, and we will learn the story at some point in time. I tend to think that it's the former. I tend to think it is more of that draft process. And remember, Deion, he was dealing with cancer. He had cancer. He had bladder cancer, right? And Shedeur Sanders didn't have a traditional agent. His agent was essentially his dad, who was dealing with a serious health issue, which also probably makes that whole situation very sensitive. I would assume that there were a lot of criticisms about whether or not Deion should have had Shedeur with traditional representation. With the way his name got slandered in the mud, it sounds like, whether it's untrue or true, he definitely should have had some better representation to manage that whole situation and not have the avalanche of bad press and embarrassment that came with that draft process. But I wonder, given what was going on, and perhaps Deion, even though he's quote-unquote managing Shedeur, but is actually dealing with a health issue, so he's not as close to the situation as he normally would have been, if that also really bothers him, that how Shedeur had approached the draft had become such a big conversation because of this idea, then again, that his character was somehow not to the point of someone that deserved to be a first-round pick or a franchise quarterback. That stuff I would get. I would get it. Now, again, if it's my son should have played more, well, I watched your son play, and he had like an 18 QBR when he got on the field. So it's hard for me. Now you can say, well, he wasn't trained correctly, he wasn't trained properly, he wasn't prioritized. I mean, then we get into now more kind of excuses, more kind of conversations about, okay, how far were the Browns supposed to have been backwards over a guy that they drafted in the 5th round by a place that you wanted him to go, by the way. Because remember, he could have went to the Ravens. Was Todd Monken when he first met Shador Sanders? He said immediately, "Hey, we could have been together last year. What the hell happened?" And he said, "We'll talk about that. We'll have to talk about what happened there." Because Todd Monken, he made it seem known during that video we saw from the Browns they posted where he introduced himself to Shador Sanders. He seemed to make it known that no, I was one of the guys in the room saying we should draft him. Because I said, like, for the folks that are like, Todd Monken shouldn't, he shouldn't listen to Todd Monken, like that, again, that Emmanuel Acho comment. I was like, Todd Monken was on a team that tried to draft Shador Sanders. Now, again, that could have been Steve Bisciotti, could have been John Harbaugh, could have been somebody else coming in saying, oh, we want the press, we want the headlines, we want whatever, and maybe it's not a football thing. But I assume that it was going to be some coaching staff stuff that said, yeah, no, we think this guy can be good. I don't think they're going to just go completely just off rip and just off of the reservation in terms of saying, no, actually, we didn't listen to our coaches at all. We just want Shador Sanders. I mean, he's the offensive coordinator. I assume he has some say. So the fact that he did say that, I think, well, okay, can you really, complain about that aspect of it? I don't know if you really can. The Browns did draft him. So I just find that comment interesting. There also is one more thing about this before I bring my brothers in. Kendall and Shamari standing by. It is also convenient to say you don't want to work somewhere where I think that they also have zero interest in wanting you to work there. Like Deion Sanders, I think had appeal as a potential NFL head coach after the second year at Colorado, where Travis Hunter wins the Heisman. Shador Sanders has that phenomenal season, and Colorado wins 9 games, just 2 years removed from winning like 1 game, right? Or 2 games, however many he won before Deion got there. Like, it looked like, wait, Deion may be a pretty good college head coach, even know what he's doing. And, of course, he played in the NFL, and he has NFL experience. And now he has this superstar son quarterback, potentially. That time, I wouldn't have done it. But it made sense for someone to think maybe Deion Sanders could work on the NFL level. Maybe the NFL team would want to take that risk. Coming off of another subpar season at Colorado where they were getting blown out, it seemed like pretty much the entire second half of the season this past year. Coming into now a season this year that also, you look at Colorado and their lack of recruiting, lack of talent that they brought in. They lost a lot of guys. It doesn't seem that Colorado hour is going up. So I don't look at Deion Sanders as great a marketable guy as he is and as great as a self-promoter that he is. I don't think even he could self-promote his way to convincing any NFL team to hire him as an NFL head coach. So I also do think it's convenient for him to say, oh, I'll never coach in the NFL because of what they did to my son. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. You could. He may actually feel that way, but it feels much like you can't fire me, I quit, or I was never into her anyway, right? Like the guy who likes the girl or the girl who likes the guy, and then they learn that the person's not interested in them. It's like, well, I never liked them anyway. I wasn't into them anyway. I never wanted to date J-Lo. I never wanted to date Beyonce. It's like, all right, bro, sure, buddy. Beyonce and Rihanna and J-Lo and Sydney Sweeney, like those, they're not knocking down your door. you don't got nothing to worry about with them wanting you, regardless of whether you want them or not. It's very convenient for you to say, I would never want to date them, right? Like, so I think with Deion, that's a little bit of a part of this too that does make this kind of interesting. It's like you could say, well, I don't want to work for the NFL. I never want to work in the NFL if what happened. I'm like, I think they'll sleep well at night. I don't think they'll lose any sleep thinking that they'll never be able to convince Deion Sanders to be an NFL head coach. 2 of his 3 seasons at Colorado have been really bad. And it's not, he dealt with a serious health situation this year. And you lose the Heisman Trophy winner and your quarterback, who was a NFL draft caliber quarterback. He wasn't a first round pick, but he was still drafted in the NFL. For a place like Colorado, yeah, you're going to lose something. That happens. But I think given his track record now as a football coach at the college level and the FBS level, I don't think anyone's going to look at his resume and say, oh, yeah, he definitely deserves to be an NFL head coach. So to say I would never coach in the NFL again, it's like, all right, seems kind of convenient to me. It's EJ Stewart on 40 days and 40 nights, night 20 here. Before I bring in Shamari and Kendall, who are standing by patiently, I want to get some people in the chat. The chat has risen, and shout out to the chat. We got Bob Custer always here. saying here, I'll move this up so you can actually see. Deion, not sure Deion will make a great NFL head coach in any case. Yeah, I have questions about that too, because I've watched Deion as a head coach. He's more of the CEO type, right? He's not someone who is, I think, a mastermind when it comes to scheme in terms of that's what he's bringing to the table. He seems to be bringing more like a philosophy, more of an attitude, and then the game management stuff, the coaching, the situational football. That aspect of him, in terms of me judging him, I think he's been kind of okay. I think there have been some gaps when it comes to game management, situational football. I think about that game earlier in the year. What was it against? I think it was against Georgia Tech, where they completely botched like the end of the game in terms of keeping time on the clock. There were many weird end of half, end of game, end of quarter situations where he didn't handle those quite well. He does seem to definitely be a leader of men. I think that he definitely does. He's a cult of personality, so he has that going for him. But if you're telling me Deion Sanders, what I've seen from him as a CEO head coach, I've been that impressed with him. I've been impressed with his kids, whether it be Shiloh, Shador, and then his kind of pseudo-adopted kid in Travis Hunter, and him getting them ready to play at the FBS level and then to play at a high level. There's been a mixed bag. I think there's been some really good. I think there's been some really not so good. I don't think he's handled adversity well when it comes to the press and taking tough questions. Like, he's kind of tried to run the Colorado situation kind of with an iron fist. Like, if you challenge him and you question him, or he will kind of go right back at you and take personal shots at you, or things that I think we all know is kind of unbecoming of a head coach. He kind of gets away with it because he's Deion, and because, again, there are a lot of people who support the Sanders family who do think that the media has something out against them. And there probably are some media members that do. Like, that's the thing about it, is I hate when people say, oh, the media. It's like, well, you can talk to media members and aspects of the media you think are a certain way, but that's not everybody. But I think because of how a lot of fans view things, and unfortunately, I think a lot of that, because the Sanders family is so online, all of them, is I think they also kind of are influenced by that aspect too. So, yeah, I'm not sure he would make a great NFL head coach either, whether he wanted to be an NFL head coach or not. I think that would not be a good deal. Also, Bob Custer saying it's embarrassing the NFL has so few black coaches. Yeah, we talked about that a couple days ago. Only 3 black coaches. And you have Roger Goodell talking about how they're going to have to look into the Rooney Rule and see what change they may have to make to fix that, because it's rough to have a whole cycle where you have 10 openings. That's a pretty big cycle. Typically, it's usually between 7 and 8 NFL head coaching openings. You had 10. No black coaches. Only 1 minority coach. And I said it earlier in the week. I'll say it again. I think the issue, there are a lot of issues. Well, the issue is racism. That oversees everything. But if we are trying to try to tackle and solve racism for the NFL, just seems like maybe a bridge too far. Like, do anyone have confidence they're able to solve racism in America? I don't think that's the case. But I think there are mechanisms like the Rooney Rule, when it was initially put in place, that you think you say, okay, maybe on a micro level, can we do some things to ensure that black candidates are being put in a position to be hired? Because what I said is, I think when you look at, it's not just how the NFL operates. And I don't think these people in the media who are talking about this are racist in any way. But like, if you talk about when it comes to NFL head coaching hires and when openings are available, and it's who do people want? It's always, give me an offensive guy. I want an offensive guy. I want a guy who's with McVay. I want a guy who's with Kyle Shanahan, right? Like, it's got to be one of those guys. Like, and the reality is, because of just the dynamics of football coaching staffs, the majority of offensive coaches, particularly guys working in the passing game, are white. So if you keep pushing that the only coaches worthy of getting head coaching jobs coming from the assistant ranks are offensive coaches, it automatically skews everything to those black coaches, other minority coaches, perhaps not getting opportunities that they deserve. And I think it's also like misinformed that you need an offensive coach to win, because we have 2 head coaches in the Super Bowl right now that are defensive coaches. And I remember having the conversations last year about the situation last year, and you had, what was it? You had the Commanders versus the Eagles. That's an offensive coach versus the defensive coach, and then you had the Bills versus the Chiefs, offensive coach versus defensive coach. This idea that oh, like you hire a defensive coach, you got no chance to win. You're never gonna go to a Super Bowl. You're never gonna compete on a high level. It's just based on nothing. There's no evidence for it, right? So that I think is a large part of this, and I'm gonna keep banging that drum. It's something I think that is a problem with why we're having so few black coaches. I think some of it is this push that we have to have offensive coaches. I think you need to have a situation where black coaches are getting more opportunities to coach on the offensive side of the ball, if that's just where things are going to skew. So a lot of those Rooney Rule requirements you have for the offensive coordinator and the quarterback coach need to go beyond to other offensive positions as well. Offensive analyst positions, lower positions on the totem pole. I think every position on offense needs to be treated the same as head coach and coordinator, because if you're going to keep saying only offensive coaches get jobs, all right, then make sure that those guys are getting those same opportunities. Don't make it to where it's only one kind of person who gets that spot. Other people in the chat, shout out to, again, we have Transports Radio listening back up here. What's up, yo? Good to see you in the chat. Good to see you as always. MC, it's going to be one more. Forget my brothers in here. It says here, did Mike Tomlin say he's done coaching all these teams went after coaches without his resume? The indication that when he left, and you always never know what to believe, and it seems like dollar signs can change people's minds, but like the reporting when he left the Steelers was that he like was not playing the coach this year, and that he kind of was done. It's kind of like an indefinite leaving of the NFL. Now it doesn't mean he won't ever come back, but there are folks who believe he will go to television and he may just stay there, similar to what Bill Cowher did. Everyone thought Bill Cowher was going to come back after he retired. So, he's still young, he's probably burned out from being in one place for so long. And we heard all those rumors for years and years and years that he would eventually become the Giants head coach. Tom Coughlin, it seemed like every time he was right on the precipice of being fired, he'd win a Super Bowl, which never allowed Bill Cowher to have the opportunity, right? So right at this point in time, I don't know if he's done coaching, but I think you let the word out there that he wasn't interested in being a part of any of these jobs. Also, there's the reality, too, that if he did want to become a head coach somewhere else, he has the situation where the Steelers still have his rights. So you have to get some kind of draft compensation. The Steelers may say, hey, listen, we're not going to let you just interview some other job. Like, you can't just quit and say I'm a coach somewhere else. So there might have been complications as to why he might not be able to be a part of this head coaching cycle. But also, again, sounds like he kind of was done. All right, I've yakety yacked enough, and my guys have been waiting patiently. I got to get them in here, man. And I'm really excited to have them back on the show because I think they bring a lot to the table. You've seen Kendall with me every Friday. He's been joining me for Kendall Fridays. And he's got a special guest with him today because it's not going to just be Kendall. Shamari Stewart is also joining us. So shout out to my guys, Shamari and Kendall, looking good in the gamer chamber, as I like to call it. What's up, Kendall? What's up, Shamari? How you guys doing?
Hey, EJ. Thanks for having me on. Happy to be on. I just found out Kendall's been hopping on. So, of course, I had to join Kendall.
Yeah,
special guest.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It's great to see you guys now. I will say, it seems like I know we were having some mic issues prior to when we came on. It seemed like whatever we were dealing with before has happened again. So I'm gonna put you guys down just real quick, so you can hopefully maybe fix that. So I'll just put you down for a second. I'll put you right back on when you're done. So you guys are off camera, but yeah, I know we were having some mic issues earlier, and I want to make sure you guys can hear those guys loud and clear, and you're not hearing them from a laptop. But no, if you guys have ever heard our show, if the Hero Talk podcast, it sounds much better. I think you may have fixed it. But if you ever heard the Hero Talk podcast, which is our show where it's my boy Kendall, Shamari, we talk Marvel, DC stuff throughout the entire show. So if you ever want to check that out, again, our podcast channel, New Generation Podcast Network, has all those episodes. We also do post those episodes on YouTube. I think I have my guys back, so I'm going to see one more time. I'm going to add them up here. Can I get a mic check, Kendall and Shamar? You guys good over there?
Mic check. EJ, can you hear us?
So much better now. Yeah, thank you for that. You
Okay,
guys wanted to fix whatever the issue was. But yeah, no, Kendall and Shamar, you guys can always catch them. We do a show called Hero Talk, New Generation Hero Talk, the extended version of the title, where we talk Marvel, DC stuff all the time. And Shamari is the co-host of that. Shamari also is the co-host and kind of the lead on the Imperial broadcast, which is a Star Wars podcast I talked about a ton on this show. Shamari is a big Star Wars fan. He's wearing a Star Wars Mandalorian shirt today, so representing as he always does. Shamari, just before we continue, just give the folks a little peek into what Imperial Broadcast is like and your Star Wars fandom for those who might want to check it out at some point.
Absolutely, yeah. So we do Imperial Broadcast. We, we try to post as much as we can. Of course, we're both very busy, obviously. But we post. We basically hop on the mic, do a show, and we talk about all things Star Wars for. I think most of our shows range in the hour and a half, about on average, time frame. So we mostly talk news. So whatever recent Star Wars news, which a lot of people think it's just like movies, but it's actually a lot more than movies, especially nowadays. So you get a lot of TV shows, comics, novels, animated shows, and then just stuff behind the scenes. So directors and producers, and now there's new leadership running Lucasfilm now, so that's a whole big topic of discussion that we've had. So yeah, a lot to talk about, and there's Star Wars projects coming up. We have a movie coming out this summer, Mandalorian movie. If you watch the show on Disney Plus, so we'll be talking about that and trailers leading to that. So there's lots to discuss. So of course, anyone watching, if anyone's interested in any of that stuff, please check us out because we will be discussing it.
Yeah, and before we get to, again, we're going to talk plenty of, Super Bowl stuff. Shamari's a huge football fan. Shamari's a huge Packer fan. So even though he might be part of the sports arm of New Generation Sports Talk and New Generation Media, he definitely also is invested in sports as well, which is why this is such a great trio that we have doing this project of New Generation Media. But Sham, just on the Star Wars stuff real quick. I know you mentioned, again, there is new leadership. Where are Star Wars fans at in terms of just the optimism or maybe pessimism about where things stand? I know Kathleen Kennedy finally exited towards the end of last year. Is there optimism about where things are moving forward? And has there been any concrete reports about kind of the vision that Filoni and the new crew have for where they're pushing Star Wars into the future?
No vision as of yet. There's definite optimism with regards to Kathleen Kennedy leaving. I feel like basically all Star Wars fans agree that was something that was just needed, just because of the way things have gone as of late. A lot of the projects that have come out have either been received with mixed reviews, not counting Andor, which I highly recommend anyone that hasn't seen that to watch it. But outside of that, things have either been mixed or kind of poorly received for the past few years. And then even before then, there was just a lot of kind of behind the scenes and kind of, I hate to say turmoil, but things just did not run smoothly. And she would consistently make comments, putting her foot in her mouth, saying things that would kind of get the fan base upset or concerned. So yeah, it was just kind of time. So the fan base is happy about that. Fan base seems to be split with regards to Filoni taking over. We have our thoughts about that. I am not split. I'm very happy about it. I'm enthusiastic about it. Kendall has his thoughts about it, but yeah, the Filoni situation is interesting because he's an interesting guy. He is very, I don't know if I'd say aloof, but he kind of is
Quirky.
He's a quirky guy. That's a very good way. Very quirky guy, but a massive Star Wars fan and someone that worked under George Lucas for several years, working under the Clone Wars. So for me, he's the closest we have to George. So, and he's been working under this current Disney regime, since the inception. So for me, he's the perfect person for the job. A good amount of the fan base is enthusiastic about it, but there's people that are not. So, as with everything, quite frankly, with Star Wars fans, it's mixed. It's all over the place. That's basically where we stand at this point.
Yeah, Shamari and Kendall still joining me for 40 Days, 40 Nights. Kendall Fridays joined Shamari dropping in on Kendall Fridays here. And I definitely want to talk to you guys about all the stuff going on with Marvel and stuff. And it's funny. Star Wars is one of those things where it's crazy that you have a franchise that was so uniformly loved when it was introduced. Like, it's just, I mean, it would have a 95 approval rating problem. Just if you ask someone pre Phantom Menace. Hey, what do you think of the Star Wars franchise? I think everyone would say it's great, or they like it. Maybe some will have some bigger, stronger opinions than others, right? Some people say, oh, it's good. I like Star Trek more, whatever. But typically, it's not a controversial thing to talk about Star Wars. And it seems like, and I don't know if it's because of just the influx of kind of like movie critiques and just how it's kind of evolved from when it was incepted and when we first had movie critiques, which were typically only kind of just like magazines and newspapers, and then the web kind of opened it up to anybody being able to be a critic, and then the criticism for movies became not just the actual like movie, but more like actual like world building criticisms that maybe we didn't deal with because we didn't have movies prior to Star Wars really that did that kind of world building, with the exception of like Star Trek, right? So it's kind of odd to see where the Star Wars thing is going. If you say, what do you think of Star Wars right now, you'll get 700 different answers. If I asked 50 people, what do you think of Star Wars right now, I would get at least 30 different answers of what's going on. So I think the fact that you guys do their show, you guys do a phenomenal show, Imperial Broadcast, and talking about all these different issues and breaking down where the fans are on certain things. You guys check it out. Again, New Generation Podcast Network is where you'll find Imperial Broadcast along with the other shows for New Generation Media. So let's get it going, man. And I want to talk Super Bowl, man. So obviously both of you guys are big football fans. Of course, Kendall talks football a ton. And I'm curious for official predictions. So earlier today when I did my show, I said, I think this is going to be one of those games. Bart Winkler kind of gave me a script for the game last night when I talked to him. Shout out to Bart, that I kind of agreed with. Because I was kind of throughout the week saying I think this is going to be a rout. But thinking about how Super Bowls typically go and how it takes usually both offenses, regardless of who they are, it takes them a while to kind of get their footing into the game. I'm kind of expecting, kind of what Bart said last night, kind of maybe a slow start to the game that maybe makes it look a lot closer than it should be. But then that turns into a Seahawk running away towards the end. I have it 34-20 Seattle, which would be Seattle covering, and that would be Seattle and New England both covering the over as well. But to me, with Seattle at 4.5, I just think New England, they've gotten away with playing on the offensive side of the football very mediocre. They had a mediocre performance against the Chargers, a mediocre performance against the Texans, and then a mediocre performance against the Denver Broncos in a snowstorm, where their best drive was actually in the snowstorm. I'm looking at the Seahawks and how they've played this postseason and how hot they are, and Kendall was right on the money saying that they would have their way offensively with the Rams, and they did last week. As good as the Patriots defense has been, I just don't know if their offense is going to be able to keep them off the field long enough for the Seahawks not to eventually start hitting some big plays. So I have Seahawks winning. I put Sam Darnold as the Super Bowl MVP. I have them win by about 14. Kendall, where do you stand, and what's your prediction for this game?
Yeah, I mean, I've been going back and forth. This is one of those games and Super Bowls that I really feel like there's a myriad of outcomes. I think we talked about it last week. On paper, the Seahawks are the better team. On paper, I think the Seahawks should win this. But I'm starting to lean towards New England. I'm starting to lean towards the fact that as much as I agree they haven't played well in this postseason, I don't take too much away from even last week, because every game is a new challenge. You mentioned, the game script is different for every matchup, and I think they understood the assignment of like just do enough to win the football game last week. And as we know with these Super Bowls, 2 weeks of everybody of hearing that it's a no contest, this is a mismatch. Right. These guys, easy schedule, they've been carried. I think that stuff, and certain teams might struggle with that more, but I think a Mike Vrabel coached Patriots team, with the way that this team has operated, I think that's going to light these guys up in a way that certainly don't think it'll be a blowout. I certainly think that it's going to come down to the quarterback play. And look, I've sung Sam Darnold's praises all season. I've sung his praises on this show. but I don't know. I don't know if I trust him in the second half of a Super Bowl. Like I mean, he's played excellent, but he does have a propensity to turn the ball over. If they're in a situation where they need the drop back passing game to be explosive, and they have obviously weapons. I mean, Smith and Jigba is going to be obviously a huge X factor in for New England, in terms of being able to stop them, obviously, and just opening things up for Seattle. But I just wonder if they turn him over a couple times. And so right now I'm leaning New England, something like a 23-17 kind of game.
And I felt like, to me, now 17, that means that's pretty much I said, if you keep the Seahawks under 20 points, I said earlier today, I feel like you've essentially locked them up. Like, that means that you're looking at a really impressive defensive performance by the Patriots for you if you're going to pick them to win. So that's crazy that you're going Pats there, especially because you sung Darnold's praises so much.
Think about that
so much last week.
Think about that Niners. I believe it was Niners Hawks at the end of the season, right? What was that, Week 18 game?
Yeah, 13-3.
13-3. Like, I feel like that the Patriots are going to have to really, get that out of them. They need to see that Seahawks. Now, again, the Seahawks saw the Niners again in a couple weeks and, lit them up for 40.
Yeah.
And with 2 weeks preparation, that really is always the biggest calling card for how these games go, is which team is more adept to dealing with the fact that you have 2 weeks to prepare, which coaching staffs are more prepared. Right now, I trust New England more, but I don't want to poo-poo what Kubiak and Mike McDonald have done for their coaching staffs as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny when you hear stories about teams talking about like going to Super Bowls, and the one I think about is like always, the Super Bowl between the 49ers and the Chargers. When it was Steve Young, this is the 94 49ers, they're playing the Chargers, and like, Mike Holmgren and Steve Young are just going over the tape, and they're like, this should be a right in the box score kind of game for them. Like, we should be able to throw for 6 touchdowns. Like, they felt so ready and so prepared given what they saw on tape and what they thought they could be able to do, that they knew what was going to happen. And then they went out there and Steve Young threw 6 touchdowns, and they put up one of the worst beatdowns in Super Bowl history against the Chargers. And a lot of that was predicted for them. They felt like they were going to do that. And we hear those stories a ton where, like, we looked at this team, we had 2 weeks to prepare, we kind of knew what they were at this point in time, and we knew we were a much better team. So, or we watched them and we knew what we had to do in order to keep it close. Again, the Giants talking about preparing for the Patriots during that perfect season. Remember, you had the situation where the Patriots had played the Giants at the end of that season, and the Giants played them kind of well, and they were like, ooh, okay. We lost the game, but we saw some things that we had some success with. And if we clean up a couple of things, we see them in the Super Bowl again, it's going to be very different with 2 weeks to prepare after playing them just a month ago. And, of course, the Giants were able to zip up the Patriots and win that Super Bowl, keeping them away from a perfect season. Sham, I'm curious where you're at, man. Where are you at in terms of this Seahawks versus Patriots? Who you got?
I got Seattle, which is probably not a surprise to anybody. They seem to be the going away favorite from what I can tell. But yeah, I definitely have Seattle. They just seem so much like a well-oiled machine in terms of their production, I mean, really the only wild card is kind of Darnold, to be honest, just from my perspective in terms of, is he gonna have those same turnover issues, right? Is that gonna screw them in the end? And if he can just, I mean, this is the biggest stage, right? This is why.
Oh, may have lost him. Seems like I might have lost Shamari there. Hopefully they'll be able to call back in a second. He was starting to cook there in terms of he feels like it's going to be a Seahawks win as they recall here. I think that was I think it was my fault. I think I was doing too much. So I got my guys back here. Apologies for that. I think that actually was on me. But go ahead, Sham. Sorry about that.
Okay. So basically I picked the Seahawks. I think it all rests on Darnold to kind of, give the cliff notes of what I was saying, was basically just if he can keep it together, if he can, not turn the ball over as much as he sometimes has a propensity to, and I think they will win. I think they are the better team from the eye test. What I've seen from both of these teams at their best, I think the Seahawks are the better team. I think they have more talent. I think if uh, I think they have arguably the best player on the field in Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Right.
And if they utilize their tools the way that they should, they will win. Which I've seen other analysts on TV saying the same thing. I think they're all correct. If they go out there, do the job, it's their game to lose. I mean, just being blunt about it. If they go out there, do the job, this is why all those guys are there. This is why they play the sport. This is what they dreamed of since they were, doing Pop Warner. If they go out and they do what they were supposed to do what they're getting paid millions of dollars to do, they will win. So I'm going with Seattle. I'd probably give a maybe 31-24. I think it'll be close. I think the Patriots will compete. I think, they want to win this just as bad as Seattle. But I think Seattle's just a better team.
One of the things I looked at in this game that I think is going to be crucial is the Patriots' ability to hit big plays. I think Travion Henderson is somebody that has been essentially on a milk carton this entire postseason. He was a rookie revelation for this year, in part because he could take a 2-yard run and take it 60 yards for a touchdown. And to me, I think when I think of how the Patriots win this game, I always like those articles people write, like, the Patriots will win if this happens. Because I think the Seahawks are going to win, but I'm like, all right, what does a Patriots win look like? To me, it looks like they hit a couple of big plays from two guys. Travion Henderson, I think, has to hit a long run at some point. And I think they got to hit Kayshon Boutte on a deep pass, too. Drake May, during the season, was the most accurate passer when it came to deep balls. And he actually has shown a couple of that, a couple instances of that accuracy, even during this postseason where he struggled. He hit Matt Collins on a flea flicker during the snow game. He hit Kayshon Boutte a couple times against the Houston Texans. Hit him one for a deep touchdown that kind of iced the game. So that's been part of the offense, but it hasn't quite been as prevalent as it was during the regular season. How confident are you guys, and I'll go to Kendall, how confident are you, since you're picking the Patriots, that Drake May can kind of do what he did during the regular season and bring that to the fold? And do you think the Patriots will be able to create some explosives against a Seahawks defense that has the best differential between explosives that they create themselves and the ones that they limit? They basically give up only 4 a game, and they have 8 a game themselves. So these are two of the best teams at it. The Patriots are second. I think they're like 6-4. But what is your confidence that the Patriots will be able to actually do that, whether it be Travion Henderson or Drake May?
Yeah, I mean, look, Seattle has one of the better secondaries, one of the better coach secondaries in the NFL. Against a Patriots receiving core that I think is underwhelming. I remember I texted you guys during the season. I was like, I think it might have been a game against Buffalo. They played. I was like, I don't think they've got the weapon to win a Super Bowl. Clearly, I was wrong if I'm picking them to win it. But
right.
But one of the things that you mentioned that revealed itself over the course of the season was, you mentioned Travion Henderson. He came on late. I mean, I had both him and Ramondre Stevenson on my fantasy team, and it was quite the journey for both of them.
I know, because Stevenson was fumbling the ball like every friggin' play, it seemed like.
He was completely out of rotation. Henderson was out of the rotation to start the season, and fans were kind of like, "What, this guy? Why do we draft this guy in the second round just to not play him?"
Yeah.
When he looked great in the preseason, and obviously he started to get more carries, more reps, and we saw the production really come on late. Like you said, he's been really quiet this postseason. I actually showed Shamari before the we were going to talk about Super Bowl prop bets. I showed Shamari the MVP odds, and I saw Travion Henderson. I circled it to him. I was like, "This is interesting," because like
it was like plus 75,000.
Yeah, because he seems like a guy that if you're talking about, and we'll talk about, so you talk about dark horse guys that could win MVP and need to impact the game. Because I agree, the Patriots are going to have to hit explosives against the Seattle defense.
Yeah.
But Travion Henderson is one of the 5 or 10 best home run hitters in the NFL right now. And like you said, he's been quiet. But that's a guy they're really going to have to unlock in this game if they want to win it. And look, when it comes to Drake May, the deep ball passing game again, that's going to be tough. I wonder how Josh McDaniels is going to kind of call the game in terms of protecting or letting him loose. When it comes to the quarterback matchup, like early on, like when you talk about Super Bowls, you kind of wonder who's going to be more ready for that moment. Yeah. You talk about how the offenses sometimes tend to start slow. I am more concerned about Drake May coming out of the gate in this kind of moment than I am about Darnold. Darnold, I'm more concerned, again, second half, late game, defense.
Game. Right, yeah.
You know, does he, how does he operate in that environment? Whereas Drake May's got a gamer gene that I think will unlock itself as the game comes on and he starts to settle in. So that's going to be a fascinating matchup both ways at the quarterback spot.
Yeah, I actually mentioned in terms of Drake May kind of like getting into the game, feel for the game. I think he has to run. I think him running is going to be a big part of this game, especially because the Seahawks have a really effective and kind of unique pass rush where it's not just simply edge guys coming off the edge. They kind of have guys everywhere that can rush the passer, which means that they also don't have to bring 6 guys to get pressure. So May, and considering his offensive line, I think has been so-so. Will Campbell, I think, has had a lot of problems. He probably had a better game against the Denver Broncos than we remember because he had one embarrassing Benito block where he basically didn't get a hand on him, and they kept playing that play over and over again. He played okay the rest of the way. Also, that game kind of became a 3 yards in the cloud dust game because of the snow. But Campbell struggled mightily in the first 2 games. And then, Morgan Moses, who my friend Andrew Pearl always says is about as old as Moses, he also had some struggles, I think, in the last game as well. So the good news is, okay, you're not running against, like, the Benitos and Will Andersons and Daniel Hunters of the world, but you do have effective pass rushers all throughout, which means that I think May's going to have to be aggressive if there's nothing there and the clock's running out, he's got to just bail and get out there and run because he is very athletic. And I think the referees get weird in these games too, where you could have a late hit that's kind of questionable. You slide and they throw a flag. Like, I think you're going to have to actually put yourself a little bit in harm's way. I think they also see what the refs are going to do in those situations because we've seen the refs. They're an entire wild card that you cannot predict in games.
I promise you.
It seems like the bigger the game, the more wild they get. So for May, I think in terms of his running ability, put yourself out there and see if you can get some flags too.
I promise you, both these teams have been briefed probably multiple times on who each official is, what their tendencies are, which guy is the guy that's going to call the PI, who's going to call the late hits, the roughing the passers. And
I hope we don't get that kind of nonsense. I hate it when they do that.
This isn't the Chiefs Super Bowl. So.
Yeah, the Chiefs are in here.
But
it's a Patriots Super Bowl. Yeah, you can't say that. This is when the BS really happens. They're the OGs of this. The Chiefs, they adopted the BS. The Patriots have been molded by it, raised in it. They haven't seen a legitimate win since they were men, is the quote Bane, right? Like this is the nonsense. And then the Seahawks on the flip side, they have lost Super Bowls from terrible refereeing. People remember that Pittsburgh Super Bowl, which because it was a 2-score game, people just forget about that being maybe the worst officiated game in the history of the Super Bowl. Where it really looked like, the refs are actually just trying to give the game to the Steelers. Like, Ben Roethlisberger was 9 for 23. He was playing terrible. And they were missing pass interference calls. The Steelers, they're always hitting guys late and stuff. Just they weren't calling anything. I'm like, are they awake? What is going on? I remember being a kid being like, am I bugging? So the Seahawks also have been screwed in these situations. So I think the referees, that's the aspect of this that you just never know, right? And that's something that I think is going to be fun to follow. Okay, I promised we do this earlier, and we will do it here. I want to do Super Bowl prop bets. So I want to get some fun ones in here. I'll get some other kind of, other ones that I think are interesting. But I'm trying to pull it up on my phone because I had to kill my other thing because there was too much data going on, which is why you guys were slow here. But I'm going to pull up on my phone here if I can get it. Here we go. Oh, that was a 60. That's 59, 60. I need 60. One thing I want to ask you guys, too, while I pull this up. Thoughts on, are you excited for the Bad Bunny Super Bowl halftime show? Where are you guys on that?
Very excited. Absolutely. Yeah. I've heard, like everybody else in the world at this point, I've heard amazing things about Bad Bunny and his music, how good it is, even from people that do not speak Spanish. They're saying, oh, Bad Bunny, he's so good. The music's so great. And I've heard snippets, and I always love the snippets. whenever I hear anything from Bad Bunny. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm not. I I can't say that I'm like super caught up on the Bad Bunny, discography. But I've heard his songs. Obviously, EJ, when you watch a whole lot of WWE, he's got such a strong relationship with WWE. So
yeah.
they played his music a ton over the last few years. But so yeah, I'm excited to see what he's got. I mean, look, ever since Rock Nation and the NFL kind of partnered on the Super Bowl halftime show the last however many years, they tend to put together good performances. I don't know if we've heard anything about other people that may show up. I don't know if that's a part of what people are talking about. I'm trying to figure out, but overall, I'm curious how it's going to play out.
I'm excited for it, man. I feel like obviously it's become a little bit of a culture war thing, but I'm not really so into that. But I just think luckily I've worked with Manny Rodriguez on Maggie and Perloff's show, and he loves Bad Bunny music, so Bad Bunny got played a ton. And I find his music catchy, and I think he's a great performer from when I've actually watched clips of his performances. I've seen some of his music videos. Like, I expect this to be a really fun Super Bowl halftime show. Will people understand the words that don't speak Spanish? No, you won't. So, unfortunately, that's not the case. But to me, in my opinion, like, especially Super Bowl halftimes, I think you're kind of lost in the sauce if you're worried about, I want to be able to understand what the person is saying. Because I think for a lot of folks, like, if you're not a super fan of Kendrick Lamar or Bad Bunny or Rihanna or anything, like, I think there's just people that, I only know a couple of their songs, but they got to put on like a 20-minute performance. So they're going to play, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 songs in their set, right? Kind of splitting them up kind of quickly. I'm not going to know every single song they're playing. I just want to see a good performance. I want to see someone who has the right breath control, someone who can dance, some cool visuals. Like, I just want to be entertained. Like, these people are like, I want to be able to know the words. I want to be, what is this, Rap Genius? So you want to get the lyrics in front of you so you can, I don't really understand those folks who are, like, so upset about this from beyond a culture war thing. Be like, I don't know his music. It's like, well, but he's a good performer. Just give me a good performer. Like, Hendrix is a good performer. Bad Bunny's a good performer. Rihanna's a good performer. Like, if you just give me good performers, I don't care what the genre is, I will be into it. When you were giving me the 60-year-old rock bands all those years, when guys were trying their best, but the Who had been past their prime, right? And Rolling Stones had been past their prime. Like, I'm not trying to see legacy acts here just because I may know more of their songs. I want to see people who are actually going to excite me, and I'm excited for this Bad Bunny thing. Okay, I finally got the prop bets up. I wish I had music to play. I don't have any music to play, but this is from BetMGM. So these are 10 novelty bets, and I'll see if there's any other ones we can do here. So I think this is kind of I'm gonna skip everyone likes doing the coin toss. Are you guys into the coin toss prop bet? My guy Nick Costos from BetMGM, he's like super into, like, he gotta do, I'm not even gonna try to do Nick Costos' voice because he's 101. But he's always like, you gotta do the prop, you gotta do the coin toss because it's a 50-50 shot. Do a coin toss, put that as part of your parlay, and now you're off and running. Like, yeah, it's like you hit it and you feel great. He said you feel great the rest of the night, and now everything is right in front of you. And I'm like, okay, so he's very big into the coin toss. I don't do the coin toss bet, but that is always one of the ones people like to do. All right, so this is my favorite. I think you guys know what one of my favorites is because we've done this before. And we always see me and Kendall doing sports talk. Can you guess which one's my favorite prop bet?
Gatorade.
Yep. All right, Gatorade color. You know I love Gatorade. Gatorade color on the winning coach. So you got plus 225 orange, plus 260 lemon, lime, or green, plus 260 blue, 750 purple, or red, pink, 1100 plus, and water clear plus 1100. Well, where are you going on this one?
Blue. I'm shocked blue is not the betting odds favorite, considering both teams wear blue.
It's a good point.
But red seems like good value where that was at.
Because of the Patriots?
So, for the Patriots, and look, you never know. I mean, red fruit punch is a pretty, democratized flavor of Gatorade for these people to have. So, it could be either team, but yeah, the Patriots for sure. But the stuff I wonder if things get weird with these equipment guys when Super Bowl time comes and they know that this is a thing. So they try to throw you off.
Yeah, because there've been a couple. Because there's definitely a couple of purples that have stunned people. I think Andy Reid got dumped with purple a couple of times. It was like, what? Which is why purple is here now. It's 750 because it's actually hit.
Right.
So I get that. I always feel like I like yellow green. I think the Seahawks are gonna win. It literally like that lime color that the Gatorade is literally basically the Seahawks colors. So I feel like that's a good bet. The fact that it's not even the favorite, I can get that plus 260. I think it's pretty good. I'm going with green. So Kendall, you think 1100 for red is pretty good. It is pretty good. I agree. Where are you going, Sham? Gatorade color dumped on the winning coach.
Where's orange at? They got orange on there?
Orange is the favorite at plus 225.
Oh, well, geez. All right. Guess I'm going with the favorite. Yeah, I think orange. Yeah, orange sounds like that might be the one to go.
Okay, so Sharon's going orange. Okay, will there be a punt return for a touchdown? Yes is plus 900.
No shot.
No
shot.
I would say
two
no
guys,
shot.
Marcus Jones and
No,
Rasheed,
no.
I think there's definitely a shot.
I just wouldn't bet on it. I guess say no shot. I would bet on there being a punt return.
I said this earlier in the show. I think there's going to be a special teams play that's going to be a touchdown. These are the teams. These might, like, if you wanted a special teams touchdown, I think this is maybe the only match in the NFL you would want. Like,
yeah, maybe Dallas.
Shaheed is dangerous. Yeah, maybe Dallas. I mean, yeah, Turbin is like, you don't know what the hell that guy's going to do back there. He could fumble. He could run the wrong way. He may run it for 100 yards for a touchdown. Like, he's a complete wild card. So Dallas in there too. But, like, Marcus Jones is one of the best return men in the NFL, and Rashid Shaheed has already won one back. He ran a kick return back, obviously, the first game against the 49ers. He's a big-time playmaker. So he's someone that I think would make sense. So I actually like the prop bet for that. I'm going yes on that. Will there be a scoregami is plus 220? I'm sorry, plus 2200, meaning there'll be a score that has never happened before, like a 21-5 or 31-11.
Now, is this a Super Bowl scoregami or an NFL scoregami?
It's a good question. I believe this is just a.
I'm guessing NFL.
This is NFL history. NFL history.
NFL history. That's
no.
Those are rare.
You get plus 2200 on this stuff.
Plus 2200. That's not enough.
That's not even enough.
I would need
NFL history.
10,000.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, that's NFL history. No, I wouldn't put money on that.
So none on that. Okay, so let's see. There were some other ones here. I'm gonna go to the SI article because they had some other fun ones too. We're talking about some prop bets here for the Super Bowl. Let's get to some exotic ones here. I want to do okay. Here's one from. If this opens up, here you go. Special appearance. I can give you minus 125 for Jennifer Lopez to show up, and plus 340 for Shakira. So minus 125 and then plus 340 for Shakira.
And that's for the halftime show?
For the halftime show. Any of you guys feeling good about that?
J-Lo's good.
That's not bad money. I mean,
J-Lo's Puerto Rican. He's Puerto Rican. I kind of see where that could go.
I'd almost want like more of a dark horse, like more of a long shot, because I just kind of feel like it could be anybody. Like I know why those are the favorites, but I'd wonder like, is there like someone else that's
I kind of agree.
That kind of like those seem too obvious. Like I'm like, there's gonna be somebody that we're not thinking about.
I agree with that. I feel like, and I also think it's likely that because it's Bad Bunny, they have to be more inclined to be like, hey, let's get somebody that like everyone could kind of be okay with. Right. So could it be like a?
They already did the Travis Scott thing, but
right, but someone like that, or could Bruno Mars show up for like the 100th time, right? Because when they go to that bag to see if they could get okay. I know you guys are kind of skeptical on Bad Bunny, but here's somebody that you all know, and you guys should like this person, and then that's where they'll go. I think that is a possibility with this. I kind of like the J-Lo one though, because I have to assume they've had some songs together. I mean, maybe that's a terrible assumption, but I would have to assume that that's happened. So I like the idea of going J-Lo as someone, but the money is so low, I don't know if it's worth it. But I could see someone outside the box, like again, like a Travis. You mentioned Travis Scott, or I'm trying to think of another young act that maybe would make sense. Like maybe like Harry Styles shows up, like someone like that. Like I could see them saying, "Oh, all right, this person. What about this?" I got a Trans Sports Radio listener in the chat. He put up, what about Cardi B? See, I'm sure Cardi B is on that sheet too. I would assume you wouldn't get great odds for a Cardi B appearance. But also, I don't think it's likely she would perform in a game where her man is playing.
Right?
Right?
She'll be watching the game. I don't know if she'll.
That's the whole thing they kept saying about Taylor Swift. Like, oh, Taylor Swift's going to definitely do a halftime show. And I'm like, I don't think she's going to do one until, like, Travis Kelce's career is over. So if he's playing in the game, why the hell would I want to be getting ready to go to work? That's what it is. I mean, I know we look at it as, oh, you're living your dream.
That's their biggest concert of the year.
Yeah, it's their biggest concert of the year. It's the biggest, for some of them, maybe the biggest concert of their lives. Like, maybe not for Taylor Swift, but for a lot of people, it is. Like, why? Yeah, why would anybody care about that? Like that was crazy. So yeah, that was I didn't quite understand that. I'm trying to see if there's any other ones because they've kind of been all over the place in terms of fun prop bets. Okay, here's a good article. Drake May or Sam Darnold have a perfect passer rating of 158.3. It's plus 5,000. Anybody want to take that?
No shot. I'm taking that.
No.
Darnold, not impossible. If he's just like on fire, no way it happens for Drake May. But yeah, I don't like that money.
Who will the MVP thank first? This is on FanDuel. Guy, religious figure, is minus 230. Teammates is plus 210. Family is 1260. Coaches plus 130. 1300. Fans are 1800. Team organization 2500.
What's the question?
I would
MVP.
I would
who they think first?
Yeah, I would take.
Oh,
I would take the minus 230. You said.
Yes, minus 230.
I mean, guys, I think Trayvon Henderson has a chance to win it. That would definitely happen for him. I mean, I don't want to speak too specifically on each guy, but yeah, I would venture to guess that that would be I would take the odds there.
I haven't. Yeah. Sam Darnold has not struck me as I gotta thank God guy after wins.
Right.
So I think that might be kind of it might be a little scary considering he's probably the odds-on favorite to win the MVP to go there. I would think, right?
I don't remember personally.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, they just played, and I was like, I don't remember him going there when it came to the game.
Right.
Oh, I want to thank God. Like, I don't think that's what he did. So that's why I'm like, I don't know if that's what I'd want to do for this. That would kind of scare me a little bit.
I'm also curious, like, what's the
now May I think is a I thank God guy. So I think if you like the Patriots, I think you're probably good on that standpoint.
Right. I also wonder, like, depending on who the MVP is, like, they're not. Are they saying on the they're saying on the stage? Because on the stage is a little different.
That's a good question because I think technically they may know before they get on the stage, right? I think it's just whenever they talk to them.
Right. Like, I'm like on the field, these guys are way more
emotional, right?
Yeah, way more impulsive.
That's why I'm just like I would think that their first thing would be like the confetti's they're all crying. Oh, they got that kind of thing. Yeah. I would think that's kind of more what would happen.
Now, if you're telling me on the stage, I don't know. They might be a little more corporate, a little more. Let me, who knows?
Yeah. Okay. Now I found another article that maybe have some. Okay, this one is a good one. This thing. So I'll do a couple more before we get some other stuff. We'll talk more about stuff. I got my guys Kendall and Shamari here. This is a funny thing. Will they reference the Jets? I guess it's the broadcast. Yes is plus 400.
Yes, plus 400. Yeah,
that seems like easy. That seems like easy money to me.
Will they reference the Jets?
Will they reference the Jets? I would. Yeah, I would. That's
Sam Darnold's playing, right? Like they have to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
How do they not mention the Jets?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like easy money. Yeah, if you find that anywhere, I would say go that. This is a fun one though. Will they show footage of no? That's not it. This was. Will they make a reference to Sam Darnold quote seeing ghost? Is plus 2,000.
Plus 2,000.
I take that.
I would take it too, especially if you think they're gonna win. I can see late in the game. This is Mike Tirico. Tirico doesn't seem like the dramatic type to be like. He does get dramatic. I'm not saying he's not.
Tirico be trolling sometimes,
but I don't know if he'll do the this is the guy who was seeing ghosts and yada yada. But in general, I could see that I can see Collinsworth honestly being the guy who said something like that. Even more.
And he's playing the team that it happened to against.
Yeah,
so
right.
Yeah, exactly. It happened against the Patriots. Yeah, I think that's great odds there. Over under Drake May comparison to Tom Brady is set at 1.5 at minus 100. So it means over would be
With
200.
Collinsworth doing the game, I would take the over.
yeah.
He can be very flattering to some of these
This
quarterbacks.
Mr. Comparison.
Okay, and then here's a couple of quick ones I'll give you. So these were mentions of past Patriots and Seahawks Super Bowl figures. Pete Carroll over 2.5. Yes or no?
2.5? No, I would take the under.
So is that counting before the game or just during?
I think this is during the game. This is all during the game.
I don't know if I take that.
Yeah, I'm not taking it either. Russell Wilson's also set at 2.5.
No, I wouldn't take that either.
I wouldn't take it either.
No. Yeah, no.
Marshawn Lynch is set at 1.5.
Marshawn at 1.5. Is he at the game?
I feel like he's gonna be there.
He's from the Bay Area.
Yeah,
that feels like a better bet.
and the Seahawks have a good running game too.
They have a good running game.
So all it takes is to show him once, and then Kenneth Walker has a beast mode type run, and then you're at 2. I like that. Yeah. I would go over on that. Okay, and let's see, a couple outside the thing ones. Here's a funny thing. And the last one I guess we do. Over under on duration of time spent discussing the 2026 Olympics, considering this is on NBC. Over 100 seconds is minus 110.
100 seconds?
So that's essentially a little less than 2 minutes. During the game. I think it's going to be under.
I would take the under.
Tarico's a
during
pro.
The game, I'd probably go.
There's going to be a few commercials for it, which, I wonder how that counts.
That I might actually take just because they'll probably have. I would think again, it's NBC. They'll probably have at least like 2 points where they mention the Olympics,
right?
Especially with it
those
being
those could go
on.
quick though. I'm wondering they're coming out of a timeout. Hey, we got the 2026 Winter Olympics. That's 10 seconds.
Yeah, sometimes they try to. I don't know.
That's why I'm 100 seconds is a lot of time.
Yeah, maybe
to be drifting on this.
Yeah, Tarico might kind of move them along
right.
a little quicker. If Collinsworth was just going to talk, I'll be like, yeah, I'll take it. But Tarico might be like, all right, then the game's starting. So
all right. I think that's a good place to leave. So those are prop bets, man. Excited to watch Super Bowl this Sunday. You got my guys Shamari and Kendall here joining me for 40 days and 40 nights. We're wrapping week 4 here on this journey, which means we're at the halfway point of 40 days and 40 nights, which is really exciting. I wanted to get Kendall quickly your thoughts on just the NBA trade deadline. So there was all this conversation about whether or not Giannis Antetokounmpo would be traded, and he was not traded. Were you surprised? And where do you think this will leave him in the offseason? Would you think that it's inevitable he does eventually get traded, or do you think that this is something that could parlay in him actually committing to the Bucks yet again long term, like he has several times in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I thought a week ago when there was all the talk about, these teams starting to get their offers ready, and Giannis was kind of shut down. It seemed like something was going to shake because I think there are a lot of. I'm surprised that these teams weren't more aggressive. Maybe they were. It's hard to really get a gauge for where the Bucks just really trepidatious about making the deal. I don't see. It feels like there just weren't a lot of good trades on the table for the teams that were offering. We're trying to get them, and the Bucks kind of realized, look, we're trading Giannis Antetokounmpo. We're going to take a loss almost no matter what, but we can't take too big of a loss just because of timing and all. We just got to tank. So, because ultimately, I think they realized we could tank without trading him. We don't have to trade him now to, end up with a top 10 pick and end up with a top 5 pick. So, I think that's a little surprising that we didn't get there this week. But I think he'll be traded in the offseason. I think they're gonna tank pretty heavily, see how high they can get in the draft. There's a really weird thing with their draft pick where I'm pretty sure they have a swap with what used to be the Pelicans that is now the Hawks. And so if they tank too aggressively, they can tank as much as they want. But if that pick becomes number one, I think he goes to Atlanta.
Right.
And then they get the Pelicans pick in that regard, which will probably still be a top 5 pick. Pelicans get nobody's pick. They get Derek Queen if they're happy about that. But so, again, they can tank, but they're not going to wind up with the number one pick almost no matter what. But you can still wind up with a top 5 pick in a great draft. So, that's where I think that heads. And, in terms of the Giannis part of it, I think, a lot of this will be teams regrouping after the playoffs and figuring out where they're at. Because all of these teams, like the teams that seem like favorites to win the title, mostly the teams in the West, an OKC, yes, I don't know San Antonio's a favorite out, Denver's in the mix, but like San Antonio, OKC and San Antonio being two teams that could have made a move for Giannis.
Yeah.
It didn't seem very interesting. But the teams that were interested were teams that, have kind of been in a little bit of turmoil at times this season. Obviously, Nick kind of have steadied the ship a little bit. And then, obviously, Minnesota and Golden State, Miami. Like, these are teams that were kind of desperate. So those teams are still going to be desperate if they don't win a title, or at least they don't make the NBA Finals. They're still going to be desperate to shake things up come, June, July. So I think we'll be right back in the same place when we get there.
Shamari, I mean, I know you watch the game and you watch basketball. Do you want to see Giannis on a new team, or do you prefer he finish his career with the Bucks?
That's a good question. I think it would be interesting seeing Giannis on a new team, but I guess just to support the kind of old school kind of guys, not just jumping to whatever team, they fancy at the moment.
Yeah,
I'd love to see him, finish his career with the Bucks. If that's what he wants, if he likes Milwaukee, I'm sure they love him in Milwaukee. So I think he should, finish his career there. If that's, he doesn't have to jump ship and go running here or there. I mean, he's already won a championship. I think it'd be good if he just stayed.
And real quick, Shamar, staying in Wisconsin, I know you're also a huge Packer fan. You mentioned how you were watching yesterday. We had Bart Winkler on, and Bart Winkler kind of mentioning how he's very much been an anti-LaFleur guy. You've been a very pro-LaFleur guy, so I know you're happy that he's going to remain head coach. How do you feel about the direction of the team, and now that LaFleur is signed long-term, are you confident that they will be able to get over the hump, like those teams we were talking about in the NBA? Will they be able to get over the hump and get back to the Super Bowl? Because, as Bart said yesterday, like he's been waiting since 2011 to add a ticket to that little poster he has of the Super Bowls, and he hasn't had any reason to do that since. Do you feel like the Packers are set up with where they are right now to get over that hump? Because it seems like they've been kind of stuck right at the good but not great level.
Yeah, I feel like we're on the cusp. I feel like some bad injuries really mess us up this season. And I'm sure every team can say that, but this, the injuries we're had is like you just totally just destroy our kneecaps just completely, so
and still should have won a playoff game.
And still should have won the playoff games playoff game that we didn't win. So I think we're set. We're in a very good spot. I'm not too concerned. This isn't a situation where I'm, totally blaming LaFleur. If we had the guys that we had at the start of the season, I think we would be in the Super Bowl. I bet on us making and winning the Super Bowl. And I still feel good about that bet if we didn't lose the guys that we lost. Yeah. So I'm good with LaFleur. I'm good with where the team is at. I'm not, in a situation where I'm like, oh, he has to go. The team is consistently good. Yes, I'd like us to get over that hump. I think we're in a position, especially the last few years, especially with Rodgers leaving and everything going on with him, and the development of Jordan Love, and that not being something that's going to be so immediate. It did take time. I think he's really coming into his own as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So I feel good about the team, its composition, and us hopefully adding more, more people that can help over the offseason as well with the draft.
Go, Pack, go!
There's your Packer conversation. I had to get some Packer stuff in there. Tough way the season ended, but I think Michael Parsons, the concern I think is, will he be ready for the start of the regular season, because he got injured so late in the season. But if you bring him back, you saw how the defense was playing. they definitely seem to turn a corner from that standpoint. But they just, I don't know what it is. Them and the 49ers, man, the injuries just seem to mount in a way that doesn't mount for other teams in like the worst times.
Like, do they also have like an EMP field, practice field, or whatever next to this on the facility?
I mean, we did that. I talked about that on one of the shows. I couldn't believe that was actually a thing that they are actually now having to look into. That there's some electrical.
You saw Jed York on Kay Adams this week?
No, did he talk about it again?
Yeah, Kay Adams asked Jed York, the owner of the Niners, and he was like, "Yeah, there's nothing there. It's just a bunch of crock and it's just conspiracy theories." And I'm like, I could have swore I saw Christian McCaffrey being like, "Yeah, like this thing it's a mess. Like it's a massive problem we got to figure out." And the owner's like, "No, it's just conspiracy." She asked so are you guys looking into it? He's like, "Yeah, I guess we'll look into it, but there's nothing there, nothing to look at." I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I mean, Kendrick Bourne, after George Kittle got hurt, he went on social media. It's like, it's the damn electrical field. Like, this is in the playoffs. This is like, they still have games to play, and that's in the back of their heads that this is going to happen to them because they're playing, and they practice, and the stadium they play at is near some electrical field that they think actually affects the player's DNA. And some guy, I guess, went in there and did the metrics for like the electrical activity in the area, and it's a level that is at very advanced and much higher than most places. And he said that could be the reason why you have the 49ers dealing with all these.
Yeah, like Ayuk, McCaffrey's always hurt. Now McCaffrey was always hurt in Carolina too. But
yeah, I don't know if there's any electrical systems in Carolina that would bother him, but.
It's bad.
McCaffrey, yeah. I mean, Fred Warner now is starting to get injuries. Nick Bosa has two ACLs now. Like, it is odd. I mean, it couldn't be bad luck, but it is odd for a team. And then all their quarterbacks getting hurt. Purdy got hurt this year. They've lost Trey Lance to a broken leg. Jimmy Garoppolo, again, that's another guy. Maybe he's kind of a walking injury too. But I mean, he kept getting hurt. Like they kept losing their quarterbacks. So yeah, it's a weird thing with the 49ers here. Before I get you guys out of here, we got to talk some Marvel stuff, man. So, I'm surprised neither of you guys watched Wonder Man. You haven't watched Wonder Man at all? That's crazy to me.
I've seen some stuff, obviously I know it's great just based off of the reception. I blame just the release strategy. Granted, I've heard some people, and you can attest to it, EJ, probably, I've heard some people say that the release strategy in hindsight was smart given how the show was structured and how it worked out.
I do think it worked out better.
But it just becomes a daunting task, and when all the stuff's already out there, because how a lot of these people had watched it in advance. So like you're getting spoiler reviews the day of it coming out. Like you're just kind of not as, you don't feel like, I guess I don't have to rush because it's all out in the open already. So yeah, I'm gonna watch it to answer your question, but yeah, I haven't watched it.
I hope so. We gotta do Hero Talk soon so we can talk about it. But yeah, no, you guys gotta get to it, man. I talked about it. Was it yesterday? A little bit with Carlos and Bart, and they both loved it. Like I think you guys will love this show. I think it is really good. I'm watching with Andrea. She's a lot slower to watch it, so I'm back. I'm only on episode 3, but I'm watching with her. So it's my second watch. I'm enjoying it again. So. It's definitely a good watch. Definitely want to check it out. Are you guys surprised that that there's not going to be any Super Bowl Marvel stuff? That feels like a missed opportunity to me, to be honest. Because Spider-Man's coming out now, not that long from now, right? We're talking about June, right? Like it's pretty close here, and no Spider-Man. I know Avengers. We had all those teasers that came out. By the way, Carlos and Bart on board with me that they think that it's a pretty good theory that I have that the Doomsday is happening. And what we're seeing in those teasers are not necessarily teasers; they're actually scenes that might actually even be in the movie because they've happened already. But nonetheless, it seems like an opportunity to have the biggest audience and drop something huge on Super Bowl week. Are you surprised, Sham, that they're not going to do something with either Spider-Man or Avengers Doomsday?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I mean, I'm sure they'll get the marketing hype going. For both of them, in the coming months, but yeah, I am a little surprised. I mean, I don't know if Disney wants to, because we now found out, not to shift any gears to Star Wars, but we know there's a Mandalorian and Grogu I guess trailer or that's going to be shown. So I don't know if they want to focus on that because that definitely, quite frankly, needs all the help that it can get in terms
That's
of
very,
gearing up
very true.
and getting people to want to go see that. But yeah, I am surprised, but I think that would have been a good opportunity. Though, if I'm being honest, is particularly when it comes to Spider-Man, I don't think Spider-Man needs much help to get people to go see Spider-Man in live action, especially with Punisher and being in it,
Hulk.
and Hulk maybe seemingly being in it as well.
Yep.
I think I don't think it's going to take much for people to want to go see that in the theater. So they may just be banking on that. But yeah, I think this would have been a good opportunity.
Kendall, what about you? Are you surprised that does it feel like a missed opportunity not having any Marvel or Spider-Man stuff in this Super Bowl?
I mean, it's disappointing, obviously, as somebody who avoided the shoddy, Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer leak. So I haven't I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I tried. By the time I tried to look for it, I couldn't find it anywhere that was reputable. So I just
right. And I assumed, I was like, well, if this is the thing, like they're gonna come out with the trailer soon, I would think. And
Right,
it's been
yeah.
now over a month, so I'm like,
Yep.
maybe I should have watched it. But
Exactly.
but between that and then between somebody who also didn't really love the whole weird, leak rollout of the Doomsday trailers with Avatar, it's disappointing again as a consumer. Strategically, I get it because again, those trailers cost a lot of money. Shamari mentioned they do have a Mandalorian and Grogu trailer that they're already doing over at Disney. Sony, could have spent the money for sure on a Spider-Man trailer, but like Shamari said, are people not going to go see Spider-Man? Are they going to not watch the trailer if the trailer doesn't come out on Super Bowl Sunday? I think those trailers will break the internet probably no matter when they come out. Of course, we did have, a Deadpool Wolverine trailer during the Super Bowl, and that, ended up being a movie that did really well in the box office.
Yep.
So I believe that was the last time that they did one like that for the Super Bowl at Marvel. So, there's reason to believe that it could help you quite a bit, but I don't know if those movies necessarily need the help. Selfishly though, I would have liked to see them.
Yeah. Transports Radio listener saying, "I love a Spider-Man beyond the Spider-Verse teaser." I'll be honest, it's sad to say, I forgot that movie even exists, bro. Like, we're so like, and that's I don't know if there's anyone to blame, to be honest. Maybe it was the aggressive,
the overambition
announcement, the ambitious of the timeline for when we get these movies. That's probably to blame, but and I know a pandemic and a strike had something to do with it too, obviously. But even with that, it still feels like we should have been done with this trilogy by now. And when is this movie supposed to even come out? I actually don't even remember the release date because I think a lot of folks have just moved on.
Next year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 27. I want to say.
Yeah, I thought they pushed it back maybe recently. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they push it back every year. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
2027.
And I think that's really
June 2027.
Yeah. I think that's really holding back the the Marvels and the MCU stuff with potentially Miles Morales as well, because they're not going to. I would assume they're not going to do anything with those characters until that trilogy is over.
Did you hear that rumor that I didn't really? It kind of just went out there. People like put it out there, and then nobody reacted to it. It seemed like, but that rumor that like Marvel and Sony had cut a deal where Marvel can kind of use almost any Spider-Man character now. Do you guys see that from like a couple weeks ago? It might have even been like a month ago by now.
I actually didn't, but I mean that'd be fantastic news.
Yeah. I think I saw that. I mean, maybe I'm just thinking of the fact that they said that Sony's kind of was just done with their stuff.
Yeah, I remember we discussed that.
Yeah, we did talk about that, but I didn't see anything specifically about a separate deal that was done where now they have autonomy to use their characters.
Yeah, it seemed like they went to. Yeah, it seemed like they went to like the Sony's done with the live action. If I remember, it meant like that. Like essentially now they were able to kind of allow Marvel to kind of do whatever they wanted for all the other things. I mean, you see this kind of stuff, you never know what's true and what's not true. But
Oh yeah,
But it kind of came in. Obviously, that's like the nature of what we do when we do Hero Talk. It's trying to say, is this true? Is this not true? What do you think? Some information gets leaked on purpose to see if the fans would actually want it to happen, even though it hasn't happened yet. Some stuff is just misdirection. Some of it is purely made up by people.
Pure engagement bait.
Right, for engagement. So you never know what the deal is. But I did see something about
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
They were going
Aaron Pierre. Aaron Pierre meeting with Marvel to beat T'Challa.
What is that about?
I'm like, that's engagement bait.
Yeah, I was like, there's so much rage bait out there. I actually like rage bait with sports. Like I feel like I've evolved where like a lot of people say, yeah, I love Dove Climbing. I think is the funniest guy on social media, and then like now Josina Anderson's like the second funniest guy, a person. Now she's a woman, of course. Like I'm like, this is hilarious. Like if you take this seriously, I'm just like, you're not. This is clearly satire at this point. Like it's funny to me. I just find it really funny. I know, and like they're rage baiting people with things that they care about, and it's making them go crazy. I saw someone recently was tweeting crazy at Dove Climbing because of a tweet he posted. He's like, "Oh, you posted." It was like an athlete or something like that. I'm like, "Yo, bro, like he's
not a real person.
It's not real. Like, what are you doing?" Though I've heard Dove Climbing is a real person, by the way.
Right.
Dove Climbing. There are some people who don't think he's a real person. Now, what I've heard is that he doesn't run he might have sold the account.
He definitely sold his account years ago.
Right. So whoever's doing it, whatever team is behind it, they're now doing this rage bait thing under the name of Dove Climbing. I hope Dove Climbing isn't like running around these streets, people pulling up on him because they don't like his posts. But I typically like rage bait for sports. I hate it for movies and other news and like rap stuff too. They do it as well. I hate it because it can become, especially because of like movies, because it's so much of it is just like kind of unconfirmed rumors that you're kind of like trying to hold on to. So people send you stuff or they'll ask you stuff or they'll say stuff, and I'm like, I don't think that's true. You see where they got it from. It's like, this is not real.
I went nuclear when a couple weeks ago, My Time to Shine Hello, anonymous, Twitter account, tweeted that She-Hulk, that who's the actress that plays She-Hulk? I'm forgetting her name.
Tatiana Maslany.
Yeah, Tatiana Maslany. It was that she might be in Secret Wars, or she might not be in Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Or they may recast her. And I'm like, so this doesn't tell me anything.
It's not news.
So She-Hulk might
be it's literally not news. Yeah.
Which we saw concept art where she was in the movie, or they might have taken her out of the movie for controversial reasons, or they may have recasted the actress, which I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, just trying to hit their post quota.
It's so ridiculous.
And I remember Tatiana had she went on and started saying, "Oh, you guys here? Like I left Marvel. And then the way she did it was so weird. I couldn't tell if she was rage baiting or if she was telling the truth because this whole thing is nonsense. Just tell me what the hell is going on. I don't need rage bait when it comes to the very important stuff that is, of course, Marvel movies and television. But it's annoying. It drives me insane. A couple things. Oh, one thing I want to get to. I grabbed this while we were talking because this came out today. I thought this was interesting. So I'm putting this on the screen. I'm going to enlarge it for everybody at home. So this is a post from, probably a little too big there. Ooh, and now it's gone. Let me try that one more time. I'm going to try it one more time here. I'm just going to actually not make it super big. So what you guys are seeing is a post from Insomniac Games. They make the Spider-Man games. They make now the new Wolverine game that's coming out. So if you love those PS5 Spider-Man games, Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Miles Morales, they're making a new Wolverine game that's coming out later this year. Everyone's really excited. This post got people excited because in the caption on, I think this is X, you can see there it says, clause. What's that? Some kind of fancy lawyer lingo? So this is assumingly a confrontation that Wolverine is going to be having with somebody who doesn't know his name and calls him Claws. Or maybe he does know his name, but calls him Claws anyway. It's led folks to look at this and say, oh my gosh, is Daredevil in this game? Is this perhaps a response to Daredevil he's having, where Daredevil calls him Claws and he's like, and I guess, Wolverine knows that he's a lawyer and that's what he's going to. Or that, even if it's not Daredevil, maybe he's fighting Matt Murdock in some way or something like that. I'll be honest, I thought this was more of a reach to say that this is Daredevil. It is an odd thing to post. Like, again, you want to get back to rage baiting? Like, I'm just like, if it's not Daredevil, it seems like of all the dialogue you could have quoted from the game, this seems like a weird thing to post because it's kind of a cheesy line. It's the way I read it, at least. I don't know. I mean, but this is where people are going. Like, everyone, all the headlines and all the fans basically say, "Oh my God, Daredevil's coming." I'll go to you, Sham. What are your thoughts? Do you feel like this is a Daredevil tease? Are you feeling like this could be Daredevil coming to this game?
It definitely doesn't seem like a direct thing to Daredevil. I'm probably more leaning towards you, EJ. I'm not sure what it is pointing to be honest. But if Daredevil is in the game, I think that would be amazing. And if they were to make a Daredevil game, I think that would also be amazing. I don't know if that's something that I don't think that leaked when they had the whole kind of ransomware situation. That didn't seem to be a part of their initial roadmap. But I think I know. Actually, not even I think I know that's something that people have kind of been maybe saying a Daredevil game would also be incredible.
Yeah, since this post, people have been saying, "Oh my God, like they should make a Daredevil game. That'd be great."
Yeah, that would be incredible.
That'd be crazy if you did a Daredevil game in the Spider-Man universe in New York City.
That would be unbelievable.
That would be insane.
That's like you're printing money again. That's like that would be unbelievable. And they do New York so well. Like that would be really, really cool. So hopefully they do that. But I don't know if this is specifically pointing towards Daredevil. I don't know, EJ, maybe you probably know more than me. I don't know too much about interactions between Wolverine and Daredevil,
right?
And if they have a relationship really. But I mean, it would be really cool if he was in the game. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, short answer is they kind of don't. That's why I also don't think this is happening because like there really isn't. Again, part of me, there's always somebody that knows more than somebody when it comes to comic books. There's somebody that say I know more than you, and they'll say, well, I'll find someone who knows more than them. From my understanding of the history of Wolverine and Daredevil, listen, there are stories with every Marvel character interacting at some point. Howard the Duck has talked to everybody, right? So everyone's interacted. But in terms of are there major Daredevil stories or Daredevil links with Wolverine and Daredevil that come to mind for me? If you're in the chat and you're interested and you know one, let me know. I can't think of one. There is no like landmark Daredevil Wolverine story. It does not say there aren't any at all. But to the point where he would make sense to be in a Wolverine game? No. Like, if you told me, oh, like, Sabretooth's in this game, I'd say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? If you told me, even if I went to Marvel, like, even if I went to, like, Heroes, right? So if you told me, like, Cyclops is in this game. You told me some other mutants in this game. I'd say, I get that. If you told me Daredevil's in this game, I'd be like, that's kind of random. I'm all for it, because Daredevil's awesome. But I'd be like, seems like a weird thing. I guess Wolverine spent time in Japan working with and fighting ninjas. Daredevil has some ninja stuff and has fought Japanese ninjas. Is that where you make the mix there, or maybe somehow they could cross paths? That's probably where I would go in terms of what happens. Wolverine certainly had his run-ins with the Hand, and we know Daredevil, those are the number one ops argument for Daredevil is the Hand. So that would probably be the tie-in, and I'm sure through that tie-in there have been stories written. It's not like there's some landmark, remember the landmark Wolverine Daredevil team up? Like, that's not a thing. That doesn't exist. Not in a major way. So I don't really think so. I mean, Kendall, do you think that this is a reach with this this like little tagline that people are thinking that is a sign that Daredevil could be in this game?
I initially I was with you guys and I thought it was a little bit of a reach because I'm like you said, it didn't from a granular level. You're like, I don't know. Like Wolverine and Daredevil, like what's the mix there? Like a lawyer could be anybody, but then I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, there aren't that many lawyers in the Marvel universe. And we just talked about She-Hulk, and besides She-Hulk, and then Foggy Nelson, like you're talking Matt Murdock is obviously the most high profile. I believe there was a Nelson and Murdock, tease in one of the Spider-Man games.
I was going to ask about that. Was there a thing of any teases of Daredevil in the Spider-Man?
That's a great question.
I've seen a picture of somebody Spider-Man posing by a Nelson and Murdock thing. I don't know if it's real or not.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, you never know what's AI and what's modded.
With AI, man. I've seen the picture for a while, so I don't think it's like something ChatGPT cooked up last week. But But regardless, and the other reason why I think that it's plausible is one, again, like I said, not many lawyers in the Marvel universe, and two, as while I agree with TJ's point that they don't have a whole lot of high profile crossover moments in the comics. Of course, they have crossed over, but not, like you said, in a very high profile manner. Daredevil, like you guys mentioned, is a character that they could very well want to do in a larger capacity, and they're just using this as a vehicle to introduce. And
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
the next game they're making is Wolverine, and they're like, well, we want to do a Daredevil game. We got a Wolverine game come out, just throw Daredevil in there, right? Figure it out. And then that's how you get the moment. It may not be intentional for the Wolverine game. It just may be a brand thing where they want to get people introduced
That's
to
true.
that character in the video game moment. The other thing that I think about is, Shamari talked about, they had the leak at Insomniac, and,
Yeah.
so much of this game was, put out on the internet. And I think we've seen them kind of really go dark, and they've been really quiet about everything in this game, which has been a little peculiar for people, because there's a lot of people that be like, well, we know what's in the game. Like, why are you hiding it when we know what's in the game? But there's a lot of people that feel like they may have gone back in the lab and changed a lot from what the game was supposed to be, because a lot got spoiled and revealed, and they may be adding stuff. And one of the things they may be adding is Daredevil potentially.
Yeah,
And
it's possible.
I think it's plausible that,
Yeah.
because ultimately, like you said, like why put that out there? Like, why put that out there? And who could that possibly be if it's not Daredevil? Like, who is the lawyer that he's talking to? Who's the lawyer in the X-Men universe? Like, is Wolverine just being tongue in cheek and he's not actually talking to a lawyer? Like, is he talking to Cyclops? Is he talking to Professor X? Like, maybe, but
then why are you making this post then? Like,
right. Yeah, exactly.
If it's about Professor X or about Maverick or something like that, it's like
right.
or Alpha Flight. It's like, why are you talking about lawyers and for this thing? Like, that doesn't make. Why are you doing this?
Yeah,
you're literally
that's not getting anybody. Yeah, it's not going to get anybody excited.
Right.
You're just going to piss everybody off. So when I connect all those dots, I'm like, yeah, I think it's likely that they're talking about Daredevil, which is crazy to think about. Because again, if you would have asked me a week ago, what are the odds Daredevil's in the Wolverine game, I'd have been like 2%. Like, he wasn't in any of the leaks. Like, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Then they dropped this, and now I'm like, greater than 50% chance, I think, at this point.
I know, man. Guys, it's been so much fun. Shamari, Kendall Stewart joining me. Guys, let the people know where they can follow you.
You can follow me on Snapchat at MCSam22. Check me out. I don't post too frequently, but occasionally you see me post something. So follow me on there.
And I'm on X at New Jan Ken. Also don't post a whole ton, but you will see me a lot on the New Generation Media YouTube channel, New Generation Podcast Network as well. So if you want to follow my takes on all this stuff, follow me there.
Yeah, both Shamari and Kendall frequently on New Generation Media YouTube channel through Hero Talk, their podcast, Imperial Broadcast. Phenomenal listen. Definitely want to check that out. Of course, you can get that on New Generation Media and New Generation Podcast Network. Shamari, Kendall, this was an absolute thrill. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining me, man.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me on.
You got it. That was dope. Shout out to my guys. Shout out to Kendall. Shout out to Shamari. Glad that worked out. And I just love, that's essentially, if you ever listen to our Hero Talk podcast, that is essentially a little tease of kind of what it's about and what we do. We take news and things we've heard and just throw out theories, throw out ideas, and we have a lot of fun, man. We really do. I know Trans Sports Radio Listen says, wasn't there a Wolverine game being worked on a long time? It never came out. This is probably the game you're talking about. They've been talking about doing this Wolverine game for years. And then they announced it, and then like Kendall mentioned, there was a leak that came out where they got hacked, and a lot of the game and the details about it and everything was all on the internet. I actually withheld from actually reading almost any of it. So if I did remember stuff from it, I don't remember it now because I didn't. My thing was like, the thing about those games. First of all, Insomniac killing the game, no pun intended, when it comes to the video games they've done. The Spider-Man games they have made are amazing, and not just amazing from a gameplay standpoint. The gameplay is super awesome. They have told some of my favorite Spider-Man stories ever with the games that they have made. All of them. Spider-Man, I never finished Miles Morales, but the Miles Morales story I got up to the point was an amazing story. And then Spider-Man 2, which for some reason people have like tried to like say, oh, can we talk about now how this game wasn't that good? And I'm like, get the F out of here. That was another phenomenal story. I love what they did with Venom in that game. They've just told really cool stories. I don't know if they still have it. In fact, I kind of want to look it up. Like, there used to be a time back in the day when the YouTube was the Wild Wild West. And I know I'm on YouTube, so they don't like kill me for putting this out there. But it's not like this anymore. But when YouTube was the Wild Wild West, you were able to go on there and just kind of watch like any movie you wanted, any show you wanted. Like, it was very crazy. People also used to just put the cinematics of an entire video game, and you could watch it like a movie. Like, I remember the first Injustice game came out. Like, I played Injustice, so I watched it. But I remember I was hanging out with my friends one day, and like they didn't play Injustice, but they wanted to see the story. So we just watched the Injustice cinematics, and it just played like a movie on YouTube. And someone just put it all together, and you were able to just watch the game. And if you didn't want to play the game, or you're not a gamer, you're not into like the skill it takes to get through a story, or you don't have the patience to get through a story, you can still watch the story. So I'm actually curious. Like, can you just watch all the Spider-Man cinematics for this game? I'm very curious for the video game. Let me see, PS5. Again, I mean, I'm sorry if I'm putting somebody. Yeah, they're all there. Yeah, someone has. This says 6 hours. Is it really 6 hours? That seems impossible. No, that says cutscenes. I don't know what that is. You can probably find it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Here you go. Yeah, this one's 2 hours. That makes more sense. Spider-Man Remaster, all cutscenes from the game movie, and just watch it as a movie, and it's kind of fun, and it's really good, man. Like, it's legitimately really good. Like, it's something that I would take time doing. Again, if I'm putting, if I'm sending the Sony Marvel, feds after these folks that posted it on their apology, but I assume these posts have like hundreds of thousands of views. I'm sure Spider-Man and PS5 and Sony and Insomniac, they're okay with it because it's good promo for their game. But yeah, no, you can just watch the cinematics. So if you want to know, hey, I want to watch a cool Spider-Man story, go on YouTube and just watch the Spider-Man remastered cutscenes and just watch it as a movie. It's incredible. So they do great work. So because of that, though, for me, that made me more inclined to be like, I definitely don't want to see these Wolverine leaks because it goes beyond just the gameplay and who's going to show up. I want to, rather the gameplay, I want to be surprised by who's going to show up, what storyline stuff they're going to do, what's being introduced, what are they working towards with this game. I want to be surprised by all that because I treat these almost like new movies at this point, new shows, new content. So I'm not trying to be spoiled at all, man. So I'm excited about it. But yeah, that game, it did. That's probably the game you're talking about, and it is on the way. It's taking forever to do it. Kendall mentioned it could be because they had to go out to the lab a little bit, but it is expected to come out this year. This is a big year for the X-Men because you got the Wolverine game coming out, and if they had any of the fanfare that the Spider-Man games did, then this is going to be a big deal for the X-Men franchise. And then you have the X-Men making their first appearance as a full team in the MCU in Avengers Doomsday. So this is a massive year for the X-Men. Trans Sports Radio listener says, my daughter wanted a PS5 just for Spider-Man. Yeah, that's a lot of people. That kind of was me. I mean, I wanted a PS5 more than Spider-Man, but I had to get it because of Spider-Man. I was like, I gotta get Spider-Man 2's coming out. I gotta have this PS5 ready. So there are a lot of folks that are gonna be like that. It's a clever way to do a rollout because people are invested in that game and they'll spend the $600 it takes just to play that one game to get the ball rolling. And also, he says, I used to watch Star Wars video game cinematics because there was no way I'd beat those games. Yeah, that's kind of how I think some people do for Spider-Man too. Like, because it is like, and you can play on easy mode, and it's fine. It's a long game though. It's not like, oh, I can beat this game in a day. That's not happening. Even if you just play from sundown, I think you probably need at least a weekend, at least. They're long. Like I said, the Spider-Man 2, if that's correct, and it's actually 6 hours, which sounds long, but it might be. I don't know. It's a long game. So yeah, it's not something that's gonna necessarily be super easy at all. But yeah, I used to love back in the day just watching all the cutscenes of certain games. Yeah, I see Spider-Man 2 here. This says 5 hours. Like, they're long games. So if you don't want to do that, you might want to just watch the movie. Now you gotta have to sit for 5 hours, but you can split it up, of course. But they're a lot of fun. I love those games. But yeah, that's like a little teaser of what we do for Hero Talk, man. We have a blast. We have a good show, and we haven't done one in a little bit because of 40 Days and 40 Nights. We're going to get back into the lab and start doing those episodes again soon. So that'll be very exciting. I was talking to my guy Lucas. We're hoping to try to do a version of, not a version, the actual wrestling podcast we do off script. I wanted to get a bunch of wrestling stuff. I'm probably running a lot of time because I'm now approaching 2 hours here. I might, I'll get to some of this stuff. I'll maybe get to the WrestleMania stuff, maybe hold the Ricochet stuff. But no, I do think that this has been a absolute awesome experience doing this show with these guys. We've been doing Hero Talk for 10 years now. 2016, we started Sports Talk 20. Yeah, about 10 years now. We're going to be in 10 years later in this year. We started Sports Talk February of 2016, and then Hero Talk came months later as we started rolling out like this kind of like platform that we had. And we still do it, man. We still rock the mic. I think we still do a hell of a show, and they're a great team. And again, they do great work on Imperial Broadcast. Make sure you check them out. Kendall, Shamar, and Kim here doing a phenomenal job. Last thing I'll say before I get out of here, because I do want to get to some of this wrestling stuff. I hate teasing stuff and not getting to it. I'll try to see if I can get to the Ricochet stuff on Monday, if I can fit it. There's a lot going on this weekend. If you haven't heard, there's a Super Bowl happening. But I saw this earlier today that there was a report that WWE had actually they scrapped plans that they originally had for what WrestleMania was going to look like, and it actually had a great change to what went down with the Royal Rumble. So we kind of heard some of the rumblings that the original plan was to have a main event for WrestleMania that was essentially completing a trilogy for Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. That you'd have Cody Rhodes versus Roman, night 2 for the title, and this would be kind of finishing their story, so to speak, I think. Though who knows, you can always go back to the well. And that was supposed to be the WrestleMania main event, the main one, night 2. That got thrown out there on the internet, and people didn't respond to it well. I mean, the internet, you never know what that means for real fans, but it didn't seem like it was well received by fans on the internet, the IWCs we called them, that's something they wanted to do. And with that, it was also going to include Braun Breaker winning the Royal Rumble. Breaker was going to win the Royal Rumble. He was going to challenge CM Punk, and then they were going to do Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. But then, according to Wrestling Observer, plans for Mania then changed to Cody versus Drew McIntyre and CM Punk versus Roman Reigns instead of Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes for a third year. Meaning McIntyre essentially replaced Breaker in the main event picture, so his Royal Rumble win was scrapped. I really like Braun Breaker. I'm not sure if he was ready to be in the main event of WrestleMania for night 1 or night 2. Because they're saying he would have been in night 1 main event WrestleMania, him and CM Punk. He's so close. I think there's still some more character stuff for him to do. I also don't know if he's like a natural heel. I think this heel run he's on, I think the vision has been kind of a mixed bag. I think there was a lot of excitement for it, and it hasn't really become what we hoped it would be. I think we wanted this to be evolution, and it just hasn't been like that for various different reasons. Stuff getting hurt didn't help as well. But I feel like because he's been in this faction, and he's been with Heyman, who's a good mouthpiece for him, but they've also let him talk, and he's a pretty good talker for a guy maybe you wouldn't think could talk. He's pretty good on the mic, and he's had some pretty good promos. I just think there is something a little bit missing, and I think it's an aspect that people want to root for him. I don't think that the fans naturally, he is someone that gets heat or generates heat in any way. And I don't know what he would need to do to get heat. Even putting him next to someone like CM Punk, I don't think necessarily gets some heat. So he's, and then because he's not Obafemi, where Obafemi is this massive man. Like, Braun Breaker is a physical specimen in terms of his speed and his athleticism. But he's not like, and he's just big and strong, of course. He's not like a little guy. But he's not like a, oh my God, what am I watching in terms of just watching him just stand in a ring, right? When he's running or he's jumping off the top rope, that's different. But in terms of just like, oh my God, what am I seeing? Like when Obafemi comes on your screen, you're like, what am I seeing? That guy is the most massive man I've ever seen, right? So I think whatever you may not get for him generating heat, he does bring like the novelty aspect of like, this is just a marvel of a man to watch. Braun, I don't know if he quite does that. So if you're going to make him a heel, I just don't know, given how the vision is going. I don't think he's really generated the kind of heat needed as their face now that Seth Rollins is gone. I think they need to turn him face. I think that's what they're gonna do. I think Seth's gonna end up being behind these attacks that have happened. Obviously he got attacked at the Royal Rumble. He's been kind of having this back and forth with Adam Pearce, and it seems like he keeps having bad luck happen to him. I think this is all gonna be Seth Rollins' plan. That he kind of realized that Braun was gonna turn on him, and he wanted to teach him a lesson, and putting Logan Paul in there and having these masked men help him out, and having Paul Heyman is seemingly kind of working with Braun Breaker, but the wise man who's supposed to be such a great strategic guy, somehow they can't get out of their way right now, the division. I think that's all going to be part of a plan that Seth Rollins has put into place. That's going to bring Seth Rollins back as a heel. And with them beating down Braun Breaker, who is legitimately someone that people can take as someone that can fight the division on their own. He's that much of a badass. That will get him back to being a babyface. And I think that will be kind of how they get this thing right for him. So it may seem like a step back that he didn't win the Royal Rumble, but I'm just not quite sure. If he wins it, I think he's got to win the title. You just got to have him, you got to put him in that moment and put him over in that way. I think it would have been a lot. Now he's a champion. Do you turn him face when he's champion, or is he a heel champion? I want to get him back to babyface. And I think he's a guy that they generally fans would want to root for. So I'm okay with that aspect of it. And then, again, I talking about the Roman thing. Like, I just look at Roman and Cody, and it's very clear to me that the biggest match they could make that would get the most people excited was Roman Reigns one-on-one versus CM Punk. And I feel like I'm right, just given the response that they've gotten from the fans. I haven't seen the folks who have looked at last year's main event and said, oh, we had CM Punk versus Roman Reigns last year. It just was different. Like, having Paul Heyman be such a part of the story, having Seth Rollins be in it to make it a triple threat match, and CM Punk and Seth Rollins were locked into such a blood feud for years at that point that it just didn't seem to me like it didn't feel like really Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins really CM Punk really ran the fade the way I think fans want. Now you're getting them one-on-one. Paul Heyman is not in the picture, so now you're having these guys just purely against each other in promos and things like that. It's not another storyline hanging over this. And I think that some of the stuff we've heard this week, just at Super Bowl Radio Row has been awesome, right? Like, I love that CM Punk said, oh, he had his best promo of his career, and he had to do it with the best in the world in the ring. Surprise. Like, I think that he has played this exactly how he's supposed to play this following that promo battle where I think a lot of people gave Roman Reigns a lot of props for more than holding his own against CM Punk on the mic, and perhaps maybe outdoing CM Punk in that way. This is going to be good. I'm happy they went this route. This, to me, was the route to go. I think if they would have went Cody, Roman, I don't know. I just think there was so much about Cody's story that was about overcoming the I know The Rock is the final boss, but like literally. But to me, like Roman Reigns actually kind of had become like the final boss of WWE just in terms of like in-ring talent. Like he just was this guy that you could get up to a certain point, but you weren't going to be able to beat him. He was impossible to beat. And there were all these factors that were going to help him, whether it was his cousins, whether it was Paul Heyman, that were going to allow him to win, or just him and his greatness. I think Cody overcoming that was the end of the story. I don't think that Roman getting his lick back is like something that needs to happen at WrestleMania. Like, can it happen at SummerSlam? Sure, that's a big money match. Like, I'm not saying it should never happen, but I mean, come on. You get to have CM Punk in the main event of Night 2 of WrestleMania. He gets to take that frontline story. Also, like I said before, and CM Punk has talked about this a little bit as well, and they talked about it a little bit in the promo. I don't know if they did that because they knew the fans have been talking about it, but it's the point I made when we were talking about who's going to win the Royal Rumble and why I thought Roman should challenge Punk was I do think that like Netflix just gave WWE $1 billion, and they have Raw every Monday night, obviously, and they spent a lot of money for it. I mean, I think they're gonna want their guys in the main event of WrestleMania, given the amount of money they spent. I think they're gonna want Roman Reigns on their show in what will be the highest rated shows of the year, most likely, leading up to WrestleMania. I think they want him on Netflix. I think WWE also probably would say that makes sense for them too. Is that to put him on USA Network? I mean, yeah, that's a no-brainer. So for a lot of reasons, I think that this is the right way to go. You know, we heard about those scrap plans. Now, I'm not that enthused by Cody versus Drew McIntyre. I would prefer that be a triple threat and throw Drake at Fatu in there and just keep this 3 way thing going as opposed to making it a one-on-one, because we've seen this one-on-one now for a little bit. So that's kind of where I stand. I'm curious where the twist would be in that kind of feud if you're going to make that the WrestleMania main event, given they've now had a couple of matches in a row. It's not like this is the first time that Cody and Drew McIntyre face each other now. They've had 2 matches one-on-one already. So, and I'm sure they may have a third, right? Or they may have a match leading up to WrestleMania at Elimination Chamber. So, that's kind of where I stood on that. I thought that was an interesting detail about the scrap plans. I think that WWE ended up going in the right direction. It may feel like a setback for Braun Breaker. I still think he's a future main event guy. Just because he's not a main event guy right now doesn't mean he won't be. I think thrusting him in that position, putting him in with CM Punk, who is a shark when it comes to being on the mic. And to be clear, they kind of like wrapped up that story a lot quicker than they wanted to. They kind of had that match at Netflix where people actually thought maybe Braun would win to kind of make a surprise moment on Netflix. But they kind of like wrapped up that feud in a bow kind of quickly. Braun had some excellent moments on the mic during that feud, that short feud that they had. So it wasn't like he was so fish out of water, but that's still a big thing to say we're going to put the title on him on WrestleMania. I think by next year, you're talking about him being a world champion guy, a guy in that main event. I've actually always thought the match that made more sense was him versus Roman Reigns. And they've had a couple of moments. They had a couple of Royal Rumble things. Like that face-off I always thought was the one. Because it's simple, but you got Roman's spear, you got his spear, you have him being the new Paul Heyman guy, and Roman being the previous Paul Heyman guy. And I think the archetype of what Roman Reigns was, which is like the big dog, it literally is Braun Breaker kind of, if you think about it. Like he literally barks. Like that's part of his whole thing. Like it's just like, what's his character? He's a big, strong, athletic badass. What was Roman Reigns' character before the tribal chief? They just tried to make him a big, strong badass. So I thought like there was a much more through line of like the storyline threads that they could pull with Roman versus Braun Breaker than it would be for CM Punk versus Braun Breaker. I also think that Braun Breaker beating Roman Reigns, as crazy as it sounds, I think that's more monumental in putting him over than even beating CM Punk at this late stage of his career. So I think that the Royal Rumble, I know he's not in the greatest spot right now. Let's see when Seth comes back. Let's see when they get that feud going. I'm not going to just dead this whole vision thing as something that was a complete failure yet. I want to see that line play out first. It may seem like a step back right now, but it might just be a minor step back to eventually thrust him forward in what will be a better position when he becomes a babyface. And that's going to do it. We're going to talk Ricochet. I'll try to get him in on Monday because I definitely want to talk about that Ricochet stuff because people are still talking about it. Like he definitely shook up some cages with those comments about WWE, but I want to make sure I give it its justice and I don't want to shortchange it. So that's going to do it, man. We did it. We're halfway there. Halfway done with 40 days and 40 nights. I want to thank you guys for rocking with me for these first 20 days and 20 nights. We'll have another 20 days and 20 nights before this all wraps up, of course, and then we'll see what the future holds beyond this, right? I know it ain't going to be no damn 2 shows a day. This is a little bit of a haul, but I really have had a lot of fun. It's been great getting to connect with you guys, connecting with so many of my WFAN listeners, so many of the Maggie Perloff listeners, people who have come back to New Generation Media because they're seeing us, doing content every day. Like just the support from the listeners and from the viewers and from our fans. Like that's been awesome to see. So I've enjoyed this first half, and the second half we're going to try to make this as good, if not better, than the first half. I got some guests coming up next week that I think you're going to really like. If you listen to WFAN, if you listen to Infinity Sports Network, I think you'll have a lot of fun with the people that we'll have here. You'll be excited to see them on the show. So we're going to have some fun guests next week. We'll have, obviously, Super Bowl to break down, and it's going to be a lot of fun. By the way, also, of course, I'm going to be on WFAN this weekend. So if you're talking about WFAN, I'll be on from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. this upcoming Sunday. So Super Bowl Sunday, you want to get ready for the game. I'll talk more Super Bowl. I'll also talk some New York sports. We're probably getting some baseball and NBA talk as well. You want to catch me on WFAN, 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Catch me on the Odyssey app, or if you're in the local area in New York, just go to 101.9 FM. Again, make sure a couple favors you can give me before you get out of here. If you're watching on YouTube, or if you're not, go to YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media. Every subscription helps. Comment in the comment section. Comments help. Give us a like. Give us a thumbs up. That also helps. Any kind of engagement with the channel as we do this project helps us. So be sure if you can subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media, and if you can give us a like and give us a comment in the comment section. All that we appreciate. Also on X, follow me, EJ_Stewart on X. Follow me on Instagram, Action EJ. We're streaming live in both those spots as well. So make sure you catch me on Instagram live, and make sure you catch me on X EJ_Stewart, Instagram Action EJ, and of course we have social media handles for the channel. So New Generation Pods, where you'll find us on X, New Generation Podcast, is where you'll find us on Instagram. And finally, follow me, or not follow me, if you're doing the podcast. Every episode of 40 Days of 40 Nights gets podcasted. So you can't watch, you're on the go, you're traveling, you're working out, whatever you're doing, no problem. You can still catch us. Just go to New Generation Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcast. All episodes of 40 Days of 40 Nights and all those other shows I mentioned that both Kendall and Shamari contribute to as well. Those are all on New Generation Podcast Network. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts. That does it. Week 4 in the books. The halfway point of 40 Days and 40 Nights in the books. We start the second half with day 21 on Monday. It'll be the end of the NFL season. We'll be recapping the Super Bowl, and we'll see what else we get into. But I'm having a blast. Hope you guys are having a blast as well. Hope you have a great, safe weekend. Enjoy the game. I'm EJ Stewart. Much love to you guys. I'll see you on a little bit. Peace to Jesse. Shout out to Jesse. I'll see you guys a little bit later.